Chapter 290. The competition between the demon race and the human race in 8 Grass Village had come to an end. The human race won 7 matches while the demon race only won 3. According to the agreement with the White Ape Demon King, the right to use the spiritual energy Eye of 8 Grass Village had to be borrowed by the demon race for 3 months every year. This result seemed to be a complete victory for the human race, but for many self-cultivators, these 10 matches were quite depressing. First of all, many self-cultivators didn't want to admit that Mu Yu, who was regarded as a traitor by the world of self-cultivators, had helped the human race win 4 matches. What was even more frightening was that one of the matches was when he defeated the demon race in the 9th stage of the out-of-body stage as a first-stage, out-of-body stage cultivator. What was even more infuriating was that the other 2 out-of-body stage cultivators of the human race had won. One of them was from the evil sect that everyone despised, and the other was from the unknown Luo Shang, who was Mu Yu's senior brother. No one knew who Mu Yu and Luo Shang's master was. Although Mu Yu was nominally the disciple of Deadwood Evergreen of the Pill Cauldron sect, in reality, before Deadwood Evergreen took him in as a disciple, he was already riding dragon vines everywhere on floating Immortal Island. It was as if the 2 of them had appeared out of thin air on the 3 continents. The junior brother was always restless, and the senior brother always came to clean up the mess. If they could accept the above, then when the 3 young masters of 8 Grass Village, who had won glory for the human race, swaggered away after the fight, they felt that they were being looked down upon. Even Tsang Wanzi, Taoist Yuan Hua, and Fairy Piao Miao, the 3 famous seniors, couldn't stop them. It was clear how arrogant these 3 were. After Mu Yu and the other 2 escaped, the human race's reinforcements arrived. The one who stepped in was the famous noble swordsman Zhang Sun Gaoyang from Rakshasa Palace. His cultivation was also in the 9th stage of the out-of-body stage. But no one expected that the undefeated Zhang Sun Gaoyang would lose to the demon race. Out of the 10 matches, only one was won by a real righteous sect, and that was Tian Ran, the saintess of the Red Dust sect. Of the remaining 6 victories, 4 came from the traitor Mu Yu, 1 from the traitor senior brother Luo Shang, and 1 from the infamous evil sect, disciple Shimen Wuji. The results of these 10 matches had caused many of the righteous sects of the 3 continents to feel gloomy. There were even more extreme people who felt that it was a disgrace. Except for Tian Ran, none of the younger generation of the righteous sects in the world of cultivation can fight against the monster race. The only way to win is to rely on the traitors of the world of cultivation and the evil sects that everyone despises. Some self-proclaimed righteous cultivators are slapped in the face. Without exception, Mu Yu's name once again spread throughout the 3 continents, and many people took delight in talking about him. At this moment, everyone's opinion of him has changed. Because he stood up for the human race and taught the monster race a lesson, many people began to suspect that Mu Yu had helped the White Ape Demon King escape. There must be a hidden story behind it. Of course, there are also people who think that this is a conspiracy between Mu Yu and the monster race. The monster race deliberately planned such a competition in order to let Mu Yu be accepted by the human race again, so as to achieve an ulterior motive. Some gossip began to spread among the human race, saying that when they were in the 2nd layer of heaven, the disciples of the Gate of Hell secretly wanted to use the 9 formations of possession to obtain the soul of the White Ape Demon King, but were stopped by Mu Yu. Some busybodies inquired about what the 9 formations of possession was and found that thousands of pure souls were used as a catalyst. They immediately began to curse the Gate of Hell's method. For a time, the 2 words Mu Yu were pushed to the forefront of the storm, and everyone had different opinions of him. Danding Sect. Refining Heartcliff was a place in Danding Sect that specialized in imprisoning disciples who had committed mistakes. The mountains here towered into the clouds and were shrouded in fog. It was very tranquil. People who refined pills had to first refine their hearts. If the heart was not calm, the pills would not be pure. When a disciple was impatient and impetuous, the master would always punish them by sending them to Refining Heartcliff to reflect on their mistakes for a few days to calm down. Below Refining Heartcliff was a pill imprisoning formation. If a disciple had committed an unforgivable crime, they would be imprisoned here to await punishment. There were 81 pill imprisoning formations, which were adjacent to each other. Those outside the formation could see the prisoners inside at a glance, and any small movements would be noticed by the people guarding the formation. However, those inside the formation could not see what was going on outside. For the prisoners in the formation, they were surrounded by thick walls. Only the ceiling was the real sky, but there was no way out. There were 2 disciples on duty in each of the 81 pill imprisoning formations, who were responsible for guarding the prisoners. Deadwood Evergreen had been imprisoned in the 9th pill imprisoning formation for nearly a year. Ever since Muyu helped the Demon King escape from the 2nd layer of heaven and was regarded as a traitor to the cultivation world, Deadwood Evergreen was also implicated. Many cultivators condemned Deadwood Evergreen. Back then, it was Deadwood Evergreen who brought Muyu back to Danding's sect, and it was also Deadwood Evergreen who asked Muyu to go to the 2nd layer of heaven. Everyone could not stop the Demon King from escaping and could not catch Muyu, so Deadwood Evergreen became the scapegoat. Due to external pressure, Taoist Yundan had no choice but to imprison Deadwood Evergreen in the pill imprisoning formation. The guards of the pill imprisoning formation were originally 2 disciples of Danding's sect, but for some reason, the old guard, Elder Lung, who was originally guarding the Pill Sutra Pavilion, came here to guard the prisoners. Just like that, a year passed. Every day, the old guard would be bored to death in front of the Pill imprisoning formation hut, flipping through his books. Sometimes, his gaze would involuntarily look at the 9th Pill imprisoning formation, but no one knew what he was thinking. This was already the 3rd day since Muyu escaped from the 2nd layer of heaven. He once again caused an uproar in the cultivation world and successfully disappeared. The void of the pill imprisoning formation fluctuated, and Lung Bingshue's figure quietly stepped out, silently walking towards the 9th pill imprisoning formation. "You don't even greet your father?" the old guard said indifferently. Lung Bingshue did not answer, ignoring the old guard, and directly walked into the 9th pill imprisoning formation. The formation did not stop her from entering. The old man stroked his beard, clearly dissatisfied with his daughter's actions. "Heartless, I'm here to protect that bastard's safety, but you don't even greet me. You don't want your father anymore because you have a lover. This is too much." The old guard scolded. In the 9th pill imprisoning formation, Deadwood Evergreen raised his head and looked at Lung Bingshue, not showing any surprise, and said, "You're here." Lung Bingshue just looked at Deadwood Evergreen. This man who had avoided her for a lifetime now stayed by her side in this way. Every day, she would come here to see this man, and every day, this blockhead would say these 3 words when he saw her, and then he would not say anything else. "Is it so difficult to say one more word to me?" Lung Bingshue asked. Deadwood Evergreen did not speak. Although he no longer stuttered, he had become a man of few words in this year. Lung Bingshue knew that Deadwood had a deep sense of guilt towards Muyu. It was only when he was with Muyu that he would speak more. Although Muyu always made him angry, when he heard that Muyu could not come out, his heart suddenly felt empty, as if something important was missing. Only then did he understand that he did not know when, but he had already treated Muyu as his own child. He was like a bad-tempered father, often angered by his own child, and when he was angry, he would directly raise his hand to scold and beat him. But when something happened to his child, his heart was in chaos, and he felt like he had sunk into darkness, hating himself for not being able to save his child. At first, he thought that he and Muyu were just using each other. Muyu was good to him because of Feng Haochen, and his ultimate goal of teaching Muyu was only for Miao Yuyan. But unknowingly, their relationship suddenly became very subtle. He did not know what Muyu was thinking, but he knew that when he was with Muyu, he felt like he was truly himself. The rebellious child talked back, and the bad-tempered father scolded. This was a very strange feeling. He was obviously angry every time, but he liked that kind of life very much. "That young man is so important to you?" Lung Bingshue asked. "I let him down. I should not have let him go to the 2nd layer of heaven." Deadwood Evergreen was silent for a long time, and finally spoke again. His expression was very lonely, and his eyes showed endless guilt. Lung Bingxue sat down in front of him. Time did not leave any marks on her face, but her eyes could not hide the vicissitudes of life. "Do you only say a few words to me when I mention that young man?" Lung Bingxue asked. Deadwood Evergreen opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he could not say anything. Lung Bingxue continued, "The teleportation formation has been closed. If he wants to come out, he can only wait 10 years. Now the year has passed. You still have 9 years to look forward to. And 9 years later, do you really think he can come out?" Her words were like sharp thorns, deeply piercing into Deadwood Evergreen's heart. The Danding Sect's teleportation jade pendants had always been supervised by Shi Dangtian. Because of the limitations of the teleportation formation, the number of people that could be teleported was limited, and the number of jade pendants was also fixed. And now that Shi Dangtian's grandson, Shi Minghui, had died at the hands of Muyu, it was even more impossible for him to use his power to make extra jade pendants to rescue Muyu the next time the teleportation formation was opened. 9 years later, with Muyu's talent, he should have already stepped into the out-of-body stage, and the teleportation formation would not be able to teleport him out. The Muyu of the past was like a ray of sunshine, dispelling the haze in his heart. The sharp-tongued Muyu could often make Deadwood so angry that his words were incomparably sharp. But even in the situation where Deadwood had lost his cultivation, Muyu did not abandon him. He protected him at all times, and even fused with an incomplete pill, allowing him to embark on the path of cultivation once again. However, Muyu, who often made him angry, was trapped in the second layer of heaven. Regardless of whether Muyu entered the second layer of heaven for Jianing, Chunfeng, or for Miao Yuyin, this path was guided by the dead tree. Now that Muyu was in such a predicament, he could not escape the blame in his heart. Shi Dangtian will not let you go. Shi Minghui's death was a huge blow to him. I come here to see you every day to prevent you from being secretly killed by Shi Dangtian, not to mention that my father is guarding outside every day. Many people are concerned about you, but you always have a distant look on your face, refusing to tell the real reason Muyu entered the second heaven. The matter of Muyu helping the Demon King definitely has nothing to do with you. Why don't you tell Senior Brother Sect leader clearly?" Deadwood shook his head. "There are some things that are meaningless to say." The voice of the old man guarding the pavilion suddenly came from outside. "Shui'er, Yundan received an order from the Threefold Palace. He gathered us to discuss something together. You must also go." Lung Bingxue frowned. Why would the Threefold Palace, which had disappeared for decades, issue an order at this time? The Threefold Palace had never cared about the right and wrong of the cultivation world. As long as the other sects did not do anything too out of line, the Threefold Palace would not interfere. This mysterious and unpredictable power had the means to reach the heavens. No sects could go against their wishes. The existence of the Threefold Palace was to fight against Yaman. Only when Yaman appeared would they lead all the cultivators to fight against Yaman. After decades, the Threefold Palace issued an order again. It must have something to do with Yaman. Lung Bingxue stood up and walked towards the solid wall. Then, as if she had thought of something, she said softly, "There's news that Muyu's disciple came out of the second heaven. He even won back face for the human race in the conflict between the human race and the demon race. Now, the cultivation world has different opinions about him. You don't have to worry about him." "What?" Deadwood suddenly raised his head. But Lung Bingxue had already left. The solid wall did not stop Lung Bingxue. Her figure directly merged into the wall and disappeared. Deadwood stood up and rushed towards the wall, but an invisible wave bounced him away. Chapter 291. Muyu couldn't directly return to the Danding Sect. Like many other sects, the Danding Sect had set up a formation to prevent Yaman from invading. The plants, land, and water in the periphery were all monopolized by powerful spiritual power. Muyu couldn't integrate with the plants at all, and outsiders couldn't directly pass through the formation. He stood at the entrance of the Danding Sect. He vaguely remembered that when he came here with the Deadwood, who had no cultivation, they had encountered some obstacles in order to obtain a place in the second celestial layer. This place didn't leave any friendly memories for Muyu. If it weren't for the Deadwood, he wouldn't want to set foot in this place in his life. The Danding sect was a holy land in the eyes of many people in the cultivation world, except for him. His relationship with the Danding sect was limited to the fact that the Deadwood was a forgotten branch master of the Danding sect, and he was the Deadwood's disciple. How should we enter the Danding sect now? Xiao Shui probed. Don't worry. Let's see the situation first. Muyu looked at the plane in front of him. This plane was just a camouflage of the Danding sect's formation. Not to mention that no one could fly into this plane. Even if someone flew into this plane, they wouldn't be able to find any traces of the Danding sect, even if they landed on the ground. The real Danding sect existed in a huge formation. At the end of a small path, an exquisite pavilion faintly stood under a tree. It seemed to be a place for people to rest. At this moment, there were 4 passers-by in the pavilion who seemed to be resting here. Muyu knew that these 4 people were the disciples on duty of the Danding sect. If he wanted to enter the Danding sect, he had to get their permission. Muyu was now in the out-of-body stage, so he could easily take down these 4 nascent soul-stage disciples on duty. However, he understood that the Danding sect couldn't only rely on these 4 disciples to guard the gate. Once he entered, there would be more people to intercept him. With Muyu's current situation, he naturally couldn't run over blatantly. Now his identity was very sensitive. Not only was he a traitor of the human race, but he was also a traitor of the Danding sect who killed his fellow disciples. If he didn't handle it well, he would attract Shi Dengtian and put himself in danger. If he wanted to enter and find the Deadwood, he had to find a way to sneak in. Muyu hid in Mu Ling's sword and secretly watched every movement in the pavilion. The disciples on duty in the pavilion were still chatting and laughing, not moving at all. If you wanted to enter the Pill Cauldron sect, you had to get their permission. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to activate the array formation. He was waiting. He was waiting for one of the disciples to come back and activate the array formation. Then he would sneak in. After an hour, a disciple of the Danding school who looked to be in his 20s finally landed on the ground and walked towards the pavilion. Senior brother Zhao, it's your turn to stand guard today. The Danding school disciple walked into the pavilion and politely greeted the others. Apparently, they all knew each other. The leader of the 4 was senior brother Zhao, whose name was Zhao Bin. He was the disciple on duty today. The Pill Cauldron sect would let the nascent soul disciples take turns to guard the mountain gate. Everyone was unable to avoid this. Even Kai Lai and Shi Minghui were no exception. Muyu used to be a member of the Pill Cauldron sect. Logically speaking, he couldn't avoid being on duty. It was just that he hadn't been in the Pill Cauldron sect for a long time, so it wasn't his turn. Junior brother Lin Liang, please register. Zhao Bin took out a small pill cauldron. This pill cauldron was only the size of a palm. Its entire body was golden. The body of the pill cauldron was engraved with mysterious array patterns. This pill cauldron was called the Engraved Cauldron. When the disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect entered the sect, a drop of blood was collected from them and merged into the Engraved Cauldron. The Engraved Cauldron would remember the aura of all the disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect. It was used to identify the disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect. Outsiders couldn't fake it. Lin Liang joked, "Senior brother, are you afraid that I'm a fake?" Although every disciple of the Pill Cauldron sect had to be verified by the Engraved Cauldron according to the rules, most disciples who knew each other wouldn't go through this procedure. Zhao Bin and Lin Liang had known each other for a long time and were very familiar with each other. Usually, when they were on duty and saw each other entering the Pill Cauldron sect, they would directly let them pass. But today, Zhao Bin wanted Lin Liang to verify the Engraved Cauldron, which made Lin Liang feel a little strange. Zhao Bin said seriously, "Elder Shi has already given us a strict order to do things according to the rules." "I don't understand. Why did Elder Shi suddenly give such an order?" Lin Liang asked. Zhao Bin made a shushing gesture and said, "Do you still not understand this matter? Something happened to junior brother Shi Minghui, and Elder Shi was already furious. Many people in the sect were severely punished by him because of some trivial mistakes. I don't want to get on his bad side. It's better to do things according to the rules obediently." Lin Liang suddenly understood. He nodded and said, I know. I guess Elder Sure did this to prevent Mu Yu from sneaking back into the sect. He's really lucky to be able to escape from the second heaven. He even suppressed the arrogance of the demon clan. He's really amazing. Elder Sure said that once Mu Yu appears, we must report to him immediately. Mu Yu didn't leave his aura on the engraved cauldron. We can use this to find him. Now, the outer disciples of other sects can't enter our pill cauldron sect as they wish. They need to show the token of their respective sections. Xiaobin curled his lips. In his opinion, this rule was simply a waste of time. It would only make the work of the disciples on duty more cumbersome. However, Shi Dengtian was an elder. These disciples didn't dare to disobey his orders. No matter how cumbersome it was, they could only do it obediently. Lin Liang didn't ask any more questions. He stretched out his finger and pressed it on the engraved cauldron. The engraved cauldron shook slightly, and the golden light slowly turned red. Okay, let's go in. Zhao Bin put away the engraved cauldron. The other three nodded. Lin Liang walked through the pavilion and stood on a stone. Then, he formed a mysterious seal with his hands. The vast plain behind the pavilion was suddenly torn open like a painting. Towering mountains and precipitous ridges slowly appeared in front of them. Now, Mu Yu's eyes lit up. Seizing the opportunity, he immediately took out an explosive pill and threw it into the pavilion with full spiritual power. Boom! It had to be said that the explosive pill given by the old man guarding the pavilion was really good. When Mu Yu was in the nascent soul stage, the destructive power of the explosive pill was limited to the nascent soul stage. However, now that Mu Yu had entered the out-of-body stage, the power of the explosive pill was equivalent to an out-of-body stage self-cultivator's attack. The disciples on duty were all in the nascent soul stage. They were caught off guard by Mu Yu's attack and were immediately blown away by the violent airflow of the explosive pill. They never thought that someone would dare to pick a fight with the Danding sect. They were caught off guard and fell into the trap. However, these four people were not ordinary people. After flying for a distance, they stood firm and shouted vigilantly, "Who is it?" No one answered them. Only the smoke that couldn't disperse filled the entire pavilion. The pavilion itself was extremely extraordinary. Even after being hit by an out-of-body stage self-cultivator, it was still intact. This is the power of the explosive pill. Which one of you used the explosive pill? Zhao Bin shouted. Everyone knew that only alchemists could use explosive pills. The disciples on duty were naturally very familiar with explosive pills. They reacted quickly. The others looked at each other and shook their heads. Lin Liang coughed and got up from the ground. Senior brother Zhao, this is a 5th grade explosive pill. How can we have it? Senior brother Zhao frowned. They were all in the nascent soul stage and were 4th grade alchemists. They couldn't refine 5th grade pills. The explosive pill's power had already reached the out-of-body stage. It was reasonable to say that they would be seriously injured by the explosion. However, none of them suffered any substantial injuries. Only out-of-body stage elders can use a 5th grade explosive pill. However, none of the elders would be so careless. Do you think it could be? Lin Liang suddenly thought of someone. Zhao Bin's expression changed. He turned around and flew towards the mountain gate behind him. At this moment, the guards at the mountain gate had heard the commotion and rushed over. The leader was Commander Liu. What happened? Commander Liu asked in a deep voice. He had always been in charge of the security of the Danding sect. He would be the first to arrive at any abnormal situation. Commander Liu, someone used an explosive pill just now. We suspect that it's Mu Yu, Zhao Bin said. What? Commander Liu's expression changed. He remembered Shi Dengtian's instructions and said, "Hurry up and check if there's any trace of him around. I'll go and report to the elders." No one saw that an invisible green light had already disappeared into the Danding sect. Mu Yu's figure was very fast. He hid in Mu Ling's sword and took advantage of the moment when the explosive pill exploded to rush through the mountain gate of the Danding sect. When the guards at the mountain gate arrived, he had already gone to the side of a small mountain and disappeared into the trees. The trees inside the Danding sect were not reinforced with formations. Therefore, Muyu could still blend into the trees without any obstruction. He waited for the guards at the mountain gate to pass before he came out again and headed towards the barren mountain where the dead tree was. Muyu, didn't you hear their conversation just now? Sure, Deng Tian seems to be on guard against you. Little Shuai said softly. Then I have no choice. I have to find Elder Ku Mu. Muyu said helplessly. When he was at the second layer of heaven, not killing Tian Yun was a huge mistake. If the two of them had died, it would have been fine. There were so many second layer monsters, and sure Deng Tian had no evidence that Muyu had killed his grandson. Unfortunately, Tian Yun had managed to escape at that time. His escape was naturally equivalent to a witness. In the past 2 days, the news of Muyu escaping from the second layer of heaven must have spread. Sure, Ding Tian knew that Muyu would return, so he had already told the disciples on duty to increase their vigilance. To Muyu, the Pill Cauldron School was like a dragon's pool and a tiger's den. As long as Muyu showed his head, there would be countless exploding pills waiting to hit him. Fortunately, Muyu had the ability to control wood. He could guarantee that he would not be discovered. He saw the familiar green bamboo peak in the distance. This mountain was much more desolate than the other peaks. A year had passed, and it still hadn't changed. The pitiful green bamboo peak only had Muyu and the dead tree. Even after they returned, this mountain didn't become much more prosperous. Muyu still thought that the dead tree should be at Green Bamboo Peak, so the first thing he did when he returned was to come here. His figure rapidly descended, and he was about to run towards the bamboo forest hut. But at this moment, his heart suddenly jumped, and he secretly cried out, "Not good." With his perception of formations, he immediately knew that a restriction had been set up on this mountain. In just a moment, a terrifying pressure suddenly enveloped the entire mountain. That aura was like a monstrous wave, pressing down on Muyu until he almost couldn't breathe. He didn't need to think to know that it was sure Deng Tian. Chapter 292. Almost in the blink of an eye, Muyu disappeared into the trees, and sure Deng Tian's figure just happened to appear where Muyu was standing. If he was late by even a breath, Muyu would not be able to escape even if he had wings. Sure Deng Tian's face was very ugly. He had clearly sensed an out-of-body aura in this place, but when he landed, he did not find any shadow. His spiritual energy instantly swept through every inch of the surrounding land, wanting to find any trace of Muyu, but unfortunately, he did not find anything. Ever since he heard the news that Muyu came out from the second heaven, he secretly set up a restriction on the Green Bamboo Peak behind the sect leader's back, strictly forbidding all the disciples in the sect from stepping into this mountain. In this way, only Muyu could come to this place. As long as Muyu came back, he would definitely be the first to notice it. Muyu triggered the restriction on the entire mountain the moment he came, and was immediately sensed by Sure Deng Tian. He directly merged into the void and stepped onto this mountain. If it was not for Muyu's wood controlling technique, he was afraid that he would have fallen into the hands of Sure Deng Tian. Sure Deng Tian was a spirit-severing stage cultivator, a rank 6 alchemist of the Danding sect. It was more than enough to deal with Muyu. If I knew you were here, I would definitely kill you. Sure Deng Tian's cold voice was like the bell of the Grim Reaper. It rang throughout the entire mountain and reverberated for a long time. No one responded to him. Muyu hid in the bamboo and did not dare to take a breath. In front of Sure Deng Tian, he was still too weak. Once he gave himself away, he would die. Now, there were many people in the cultivation world who wanted to find him, and Sure Deng Tian was undoubtedly the person who wanted to take his life the most. Sure Deng Tian still could not find any trace of Muyu. He was furious. With a wave of his hand, a destructive aura swept out, and instantly, the bamboo in front of him was shaken into powder. With a murderous look, he walked towards the only small wooden house in the Green Bamboo Peak. There were also some traps set in the house, but they were not activated at the moment. He only snorted coldly, and the entire wooden house suddenly exploded, the sound of explosions ringing out incessantly. Sure Deng Tian had already placed several rank 6 explosive pills inside. He had originally planned to use them to deal with Muyu. He wanted to blow up Muyu. But Muyu did not appear in the wooden house. Green Bamboo Peak was a shabby building that was barely presentable, and now it had disappeared from Shi Dongtian's hands. Today, I will destroy everything in Green Bamboo Peak. Let's see where you can run to. Shi Dongtian once again released his berserk aura, and the bamboo forest around him had already been razed to the ground. It was a complete mess. He did not know that Muyu had merged with the trees. Otherwise, he would have destroyed all the plants in the Green Bamboo Peak to force Muyu out. However, there was another fluctuation in the void, and Lung Bingshue's figure also descended. Shi Dongtian, the sect leader, asked us to go and discuss the order issued by the Sanshong Palace. What are you doing here? Lung Bingshue's voice was equally cold, and her expression was very unfriendly. Shi Dongtian raised his hand and threw out another explosive pill, which instantly blew up a deep pit in the Green Bamboo Peak. He completely ignored Lung Bingshue's gaze and did not even want to speak. Stop it! Lung Bingshue's face also showed a trace of anger. Seeing Shi Dongtian throw out another explosive pill, she immediately blocked it and said coldly, "Deadwood has already been punished by the sect leader to spend the rest of his life in the pill confinement formation. Is that not enough? Are you only willing to be satisfied after destroying the entire mountain? Don't forget, Green Bamboo Peak is one of the foundations of our Danding sect. If you destroy it, do you think the sect leader will let you go?" Shi Dongtian's face was almost distorted to the extreme, and the resentment in his heart was like a dormant volcano that was about to erupt. However, he suddenly thought of something, and the corner of his mouth curved into a vicious arc, suppressing the eruption of the volcano. "Junior sister, how dare I disobey the sect leader's order? Let's go." Shi Dongtian's eyes swept through the trees where Muyu was hiding like a poisonous snake. That place had been turned into flat ground. He remembered that Muyu's aura disappeared there, but he could not be sure. Then Shi Dongtian squinted his eyes and laughed, stepped into the void and disappeared. Lung Bingshue's chest rose and fell slightly. Her gaze swept through the surrounding trees, and she said coldly, "I don't know if you are here, but Shi Dongtian is trying to kill Deadwood. I only have one sentence to say: heart-refining cliff, pill confinement formation." After saying that, Lung Bingshue pursed her lips and also stepped out, heading towards the Danding sect's conference hall. After a long time, Muyu got out of the trees. If he had not moved quickly just now, he was afraid that he would have been blown out by Shi Dongtian. The restrictions set by Shi Dongtian had been broken and would no longer be effective. He knew that he was a little reckless this time. After his accident, Deadwood would inevitably be monitored by Shi Dongtian at all times. How could Shi Dongtian not think of waiting for him? The bamboo forest had been destroyed by Shi Dongtian, and he was very angry in his heart. Although he had no feelings for this place, Deadwood's old man grew up here after all. Now, even the only wooden house had been turned into pieces. Shi Dongtian was really ruthless. But compared to Shi Dongtian destroying Green Bamboo Peak, Deadwood being trapped in heart-refining cliffs, pill confinement formation made him even more angry. Muyu clenched his fists. Because of him, Deadwood's old man was punished to be locked in the pill confinement formation for the rest of his life. He had always thought that every injustice had its perpetrator and every debt had its debtor. He had made a mistake, and it had nothing to do with Deadwood's old man. But why did the sect leader want Deadwood to bear the responsibility? Muyu, what do heart-refining cliff and pill confinement formation mean? Xiao Shuai asked puzzledly. The pill confinement formation is a place specially used to imprison Danding sect's criminals. Inside are all heinous people. Almost all of them are traitors of Danding sect. These people's spiritual power will gradually be extracted by the pill confinement formation and used to help other Danding sect disciples. Muyu heard Deadwood talk about the pill confinement formation. Danding sect had a pill confinement room that was specially used for alchemists to refine pills. Refining pills in the pill confinement room could allow alchemists to refine pills without any distractions during the process, and the success rate of refining pills would also be higher. The pill confinement room itself was a formation. In its formation, I was the spiritual power of the prisoners in the pill confinement formation under heart-refining cliff. Deadwood was finally able to embark on the road of cultivation again, but now he was locked in the pill confinement formation by Yunnan Taoist, which meant that the spiritual power he obtained from cultivation would be deprived at all times, and his cultivation would never be able to advance. If the prisoner didn't cultivate, he wouldn't be able to provide enough spiritual power for the pill confinement formation. He would gradually degenerate into a mortal and eventually die slowly. Lung Bingxue told Mu Yu the whereabouts of Deadwood, hoping that Mu Yu would save him. Lung Bingxue was a member of Danding's sect, and her father was also a member of Danding's sect. She couldn't betray Danding's sect, but she also couldn't watch the man she loved all her life be trapped in the pill confinement formation for the rest of his life. Mu Yu got up angrily and went back into the trees, heading towards heart-refining cliff. Danding's sect conference hall. Danding's sect's conference hall was called Ancient Pill Hall. At this moment, the atmosphere in the hall was very solemn. There were more than 100 elders in the hall. The lowest cultivation level was out-of-body stage, which was equivalent to a rank 5 alchemist. Out-of-body stage cultivation level wasn't high in the cultivation world, but their status was comparable to spirit-severing stage cultivators. Not to mention that there were less than 10 rank 5 alchemists here, and most of them were rank 6 alchemists. Every elder was an old man with white hair and a sage-like demeanor. At this moment, everyone was sitting upright and still, looking at the person sitting at the head of the hall with extreme seriousness. He was also the head of Danding's sect, a rank 7 alchemist, Taoist Yundan. Taoist Yundan's face was solemn as he scanned the people present. These people were all elders with extremely high seniority in Danding's sect. Every one of them who left Danding's sect was a high-level alchemist respected by everyone in the cultivation world. These elders were also the pillar of support of Danding's sect. Because of their existence, the cultivation world had a deep respect for Danding's sect. There were 4 seats on both sides of him. They were Lung Bingxue, Shi Dengtian, and Yao Wuji. Only one seat was empty. Danding's sect had a total of 5 branch heads. Each branch head was in charge of the affairs of their own peak. The other elders helped the branch head develop their own branch. But right now, the elders and branch heads of the 4 branches were all present. Only the Dead Tree branch was missing. The Dead Tree branch had always had very few people. Only Dead Tree and Mu Yu were left. Danding's sect had a rule that unless everyone in a branch died, the head of Danding's sect could only appoint a new branch head. Now that Dead Tree was still alive, even if he was imprisoned, he still had a disciple in name, Mu Yu. Therefore, even the head of Danding's sect could not strip Dead Tree of his position as branch head. Dead Tree had not been in Danding's sect for more than 10 years. Therefore, he had never participated in Danding's sect's meetings. The seat next to Taoist Yundan had also been empty for more than 10 years. Now that Dead Tree had returned to Danding's sect, because of the oppression from various forces in the cultivation world, Taoist Yundan had no choice but to imprison Dead Tree. Therefore, this seat continued to be empty. Head of sect, why did you summon all of us here? The old man guarding the pavilion asked. In the past, whenever there was a big matter in the sect, Taoist Yundan would only summon the branch heads of the other 3 branches and let the branch heads pass the news back to the elders of each branch. The old man guarding the pavilion used to be one of the branch heads of the 5 branches. He was the branch head of Freezing Peak. However, he had retired and left everything to his daughter. He had not come here for a long time. Taoist Yundan said seriously, "Today, I summoned everyone here to tell you one thing. The Sanchong Palace has officially issued an order for us to no longer fight with the demons. The Demon King's birth has been recognized by the Sanchong Palace." Many people became serious. The Sanchong Palace had recognized the birth of the demons. This was enough to show that Yamon's situation had seriously affected the peaceful lives of the human race. The human race could not deal with both Yamon and the demons at the same time. Therefore, they could only choose to ally with the demons. The Sanchong Palace had always been mysterious and unpredictable. However, They were very clear about the situation on the Sanchon continent. Every order they issued was reasonable and never wrong. They said that the demon's birth was tacitly acknowledged, so there was a need for the demon's birth. Then, is this the only thing? The old man guarding the pavilion continued to ask. With his many years of experience, if he was only summoned for this matter, it was obviously not enough to convince him. Taoist Yundan said with a serious expression, "There's one more thing. After more than 100 years, the Sanchon Palace has issued the Supreme Immortal Ranking again." What? The Supreme Immortal Ranking is coming out again? The old man's eyes widened in shock. The others also looked up and stared at Taoist Yundan in disbelief. The 3 words on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard seemed to contain unparalleled power, causing everyone to be extremely shocked. A battle of life and death, a battle between dragons and tigers, a battle between prodigies and devils. It wasn't just the Pill Cauldron School. The other sects in the cultivation world were also shocked after hearing about the Supreme Immortal Ranking. The appearance of the Supreme Immortal Ranking of the Sanchon Palace set off a storm in the cultivation world. The Sanchon continent was not going to be peaceful any longer. The older generation knew what the Supreme Immortal Ranking meant. It was a list of supreme glory that everyone yearned for. Those on the list were all heroes of the younger generation. All of them were talented and had a great future ahead of them. How many juniors from our Pill Cauldron School are on the list? The old man pondered for a moment before asking in a serious manner. He had the highest seniority in the Pill Cauldron School and was the one with the most authority. 7. Taoist Yundan's eyes flashed with a strange glint. Which 7? The 7 Supreme Immortals are Lin Tianyu and Bi Wenxuan from my sect, Dao Ye from Junior Sister Lung's sect, Shihai from Junior Brother Shi's sect, Xiaohua and Kai Lai from Junior Brother Yao's sect, and I'm sure everyone knows who the last one is. Taoist Yundan glanced at everyone and didn't reveal everything. Chapter 293. Refining Heart Cliff, Pill Imprisoning Formation. The Pill Imprisoning Formation was usually guarded by 2 ordinary Pill Cauldron sect disciples. Ever since Wither Tree and Chongqing were taken into the Pill Imprisoning Formation, the old guard who originally guarded the Pill Scripture Pavilion ran over to guard here alone. None of the sect disciples knew why the old guard personally came to guard the Pill Imprisoning Formation. Any prisoner who entered the Pill Imprisoning Formation would have their aura firmly memorized by the formation. There was no way to escape. The only person who could remove the aura of the prisoners was the Pill Cauldron sect's head, Taoist Yundan. This meant that after entering the Pill Imprisoning Formation, there was no need to worry about the prisoners escaping. Therefore, there was no need to send powerful people to guard the prisoners. When the old guard appeared here, many people understood that perhaps this matter was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. After Shi Minghui's death, Muyu was deeply involved with the Demon King. Withered Tree was cursed from all directions. Taoist Yundan had no choice but to imprison Withered Tree. The old guard understood that Shi Dengtian would definitely find a chance to make a move on Withered Tree. Shi Dengtian's hatred for Withered Tree was not something that had been established in a day or two. Many years ago, Withered Tree and Chongqing had not left the Pill Cauldron sect. Shi Dengtian's youngest son had run off to steal Withered Tree's things. He had accidentally touched Withered Tree's poison and lost his life. There was already a deep conflict between the two. Now, Shi Dengtian's grandson had also died in the hands of Withered Tree's disciple. With such a deep hatred, how could Shi Dengtian let it go? The old guard came here not to guard the prisoners, but to protect Withered Tree from being secretly killed by Shi Dengtian. But today, Taoist Yundan sent a message and summoned all the elders to the ancient Pill Hall to discuss the orders issued by the Sanchon Palace. The old guard and Lung Bingxue had no choice but to go. They thought that they would only leave for a short while. Shi Dengtian would also follow, and nothing would happen to Withered Tree. However, they were still careless. With Shi Dengtian's reputation and status, how could he personally kill Withered Tree? The sun shone on the Pill Imprisoning Formation below Refining Heart Cliff, revealing an unconcealable chill. A biting cold breeze gently blew through a few floating clouds, covering the sun. The black crow leaped through the air, leaving behind a black feather. It slowly floated down and gently touched the grass. Then it ruthlessly stomped the black feather into the grass with one foot. Suzai stood outside the pill imprisoning array. He was a little nervous, and he looked around vigilantly. There were no other pill cauldron sect disciples guarding the pill imprisoning array, and the old guard was not here either. He knew that he had to end this quickly. Suzai had come here to kill withered Tree Chongqing in the 9th Dan imprisoning array. He looked at the 81 pill imprisoning formations, searching for the whereabouts of withered tree evergreen. Not all of the 81 pill imprisoning arrays were imprisoning prisoners. Many of them were empty. His gaze landed on the 9th Dan imprisoning array. He saw withered Tree Chongqing sitting cross-legged on the ground, cultivating with his eyes closed. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Even though Deadwood Evergreen only had the cultivation of the Jindan period, he was still one of the 5 branch masters of the Danding sect. Assassinating a branch master was a capital offense. Suzai recalled what Shi Dingtian had said to him just now. Find a chance to kill withered Tree Chongqing. You can have any level 6 pill you want. Shi Dingtian was a level 6 pill master, and he had a lot of level 6 pills on him. However, these level 6 pills were usually given to his disappointing grandson to squander. Suzai was overjoyed. Normally, he wouldn't even dare to think about a level 6 medicinal pill. At most, Shi Dingtian would only bestow a level 5 medicinal pill to his disciple. This was already a huge temptation, let alone a level 6 medicinal pill. He had already thought about what kind of rank 6 pill he would ask for. After he lost to Mu Yu, his face among the disciples of the Pill Cauldron School was completely swept to the ground. Shi Dingtian no longer paid any attention to him, and his cultivation was stuck at the 9th heavenly layer of nascent soul, unable to advance even an inch. He needed a level 6 pill, the Tai Ching illusionary pill, to help him break through to the out-of-body stage. Then, he could participate in the Pill Cauldron sect's level 5 pill master examination and become a core member of the Pill Cauldron sect. Only then could he re-establish his prestige among his fellow disciples. However, if people found out that he had assassinated a branch master, he would definitely suffer a terrible punishment. Even if Suzai was given 100 guts, he wouldn't dare to have the idea of assassinating a branch master. However, the temptation of the extreme purity illusionary destruction pill was too great for him. Thinking back to how he had been forced to the point where he had no face left by Mu Yu and was pointed at by other disciples when he walked out, he was really unwilling to accept such humiliation. If he could break through to the out-of-body stage, with his talent, he would definitely become a level 5 pill master. A level 5 pill master status in the Pill Cauldron sect was quite high. In the future, he could also become an elder of the Pill Cauldron sect and make some decisions together. In addition, he was so young, so he could become the leader of the Pill Cauldron sect again. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and decided to take the risk. All the branch masters of the Pill Cauldron sect had high cultivation. Only the branch master of the Green Bamboo Peak, Deadwood Evergreen, had become a joke in the Pill Cauldron sect. Today, Shi Dingtian sent a secret letter telling him that all the elders in the sect would go to the ancient Pill Hall for a meeting. The old man guarding the hall and Lung Bingxue would also go. As soon as the two of them left, the Pill confinement array would be unguarded. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Suzai, so he immediately rushed to the Pill confinement array. Because of the particularity of the Pill confinement array, the people in the array could not see outside, but the people outside could see inside, so Suzai was not worried about being seen by other prisoners. The Pill confinement array would only intercept the prisoners in the array and would not intercept anyone who wanted to enter the array, so Suzai easily walked into the 9th Pill confinement array. Deadwood opened his eyes. He thought Lung Bingxue had come back and wanted to ask about Mu Yu's situation, but he met a strange face of the Pill Cauldron sect disciple. "Who are you?" Deadwood now only had the cultivation of the Jindan period, but he could feel the spiritual power fluctuation of the Pill Cauldron sect's disciple in front of him. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. Suzai looked at Deadwood and still had some hesitation in his heart. This was the branch master of the Green Bamboo Peak. If someone found out that he had killed a branch master, then even if he escaped from the Pill Cauldron sect, he would never be able to live a peaceful life. As an alchemist, he was very clear about the matter of being hunted down. Many cultivators in the cultivation world were willing to hunt down someone for an alchemist's favor or elixir. If the Pill Cauldron sect issued a hunting order for him, even if he was an alchemist, he would not be able to survive. After all, the favor of the Pill Cauldron sect was more tempting than the favor of a small rank for alchemist. Looking at Deadwood's expression, he thought of Muyu. Before Muyu came to the Pill Cauldron sect, he was one of the most outstanding people among his fellow disciples, and many people surrounded him. However, since he lost a bet to Muyu and lost a competition to Muyu, he was forced to fulfill his promise in front of so many people and crawled to the Green Bamboo Peak. His status plummeted, and he became the laughingstock of everyone in the Pill Cauldron sect. All of this was brought to him by Muyu, and he hated Muyu to the core. He wished he could tear Muyu into pieces. However, he knew that he was not Muyu's opponent at all. Muyu was powerful not only because of his extraordinary talent in alchemy, but also because of his powerful combat ability. Muyu was different from ordinary alchemists. He did not have the flaw of low combat ability of alchemists. He could not take revenge on Muyu, so he wanted to pour out his hatred for Muyu onto Muyu's master. Although he and Deadwood Evergreen did not have any interaction and had never even seen each other, it was Deadwood Evergreen who taught Muyu that caused his status in the Pill Cauldron sect to plummet. He wanted Deadwood Evergreen to pay for Muyu's debt. So what if Deadwood Evergreen was the branch master? Right now, Deadwood Evergreen was just a Jindan period cultivator who made a mistake and was imprisoned. A branch master during the Jindan period? He was simply a disgrace to the Pill Cauldron sect. Who am I? You don't need to know. You only need to know that you must die today. Suzai's mouth revealed a trace of ruthlessness. Thinking back to the past, his hatred for Muyu grew deeper and deeper. He knew that Muyu survived the disaster and returned from the second layer of heaven. He even became an out-of-body cultivator and taught the demon clan a lesson. Right now, Muyu's achievements were far from what he could catch up to. He must also break through to the out-of-body stage to have a chance of getting back the humiliation of the past. Deadwood stood up and retreated a few steps. Suzai's yuanying stage suppression was unbearable. He snorted and said, "You dare to kill me?" Suzai looked at the walls on all sides. After walking into the Pill confinement array, he could no longer see the situation outside. It was as if he was also imprisoned. He was a little panicked. Killing a branch master was really unforgivable. However, he could not shrink back. Only by killing Deadwood Evergreen could he get everything he wanted. Why wouldn't I dare? Suzai was not confident. He was actually still very hesitant. If he only killed an ordinary disciple of Danding's sect, he might be more decisive. However, facing Deadwood Evergreen's cold eyes, he was a little afraid. "If you kill me, you think you can get away with it?" Deadwood Evergreen raised his eyebrows. His face was full of ridicule. He looked at Suzai as if he was looking at a joke. Suzai was very uncomfortable being stared at by Deadwood Evergreen. After all, Deadwood Evergreen was once a powerful poison king. That faintly discernible majesty still had an effect on Suzai. He was already thinking of retreating. However, when he thought of Shi Dongtian's expression, he suddenly shivered. Ever since his grandson, Shi Mingwei, died, Shi Dongtian became extremely irritable. He often casually punished his disciples. If Suzai could not complete the task given by Shi Dongtian, his ending would be even worse. He saw with his own eyes that a disciple with poor talent was beaten to death by Shi Dongtian because of a small mistake. Ever since Suzai lost face in front of many people of Danding sect, Shi Dongtian was very dissatisfied with him. Now, he was nothing in front of Shi Dongtian. If he lost this opportunity to perform, then he would never be able to stand out. Thinking of this, Suzai forced himself to be calm. Then, He laughed and stared fiercely at Deadwood. He said, "In a place like this, who would know that I killed you? The one who has a grudge with you is my master, not me. Everyone will only suspect him, not me. You were sent by Shi Dengtian." Deadwood frowned. He already knew that Shi Dengtian wanted to kill him to avenge Shi Minghui. He also knew that the old man was here to protect him. However, he did not expect that as soon as the old man left, Shi Dengtian would send someone to kill him. Su Zai's expression changed. He accidentally revealed his origin. However, it did not matter at this moment. In his eyes, Deadwood was already a corpse. It did not matter if he knew or not. Even if he did not say it, Deadwood could guess it. "Do you think that if you kill me, no one will be able to find out who did it? Once I die, Shi Dengtian will become a suspect. Do you think he will be so stupid, waiting for the sect leader to find evidence to convict him? He will definitely kill you to silence you and leave everything clean. You're just a tool." Deadwood sneered. "Let me think. You must not be liked in front of Shi Dengtian, right? Only then will he be able to kill you with a clear conscience." Chapter 294. Su Zai was not a strong-willed person. He was ambitious, but he was also afraid of death. In the past, he had a high prestige among the disciples of Danding's sect and was highly regarded by Shi Dengtian. If it wasn't for Mu Yu's sudden appearance, he would still be the pride of Danding's sect. Kumu Chongqing's words deeply hurt Su Zai. "Impossible. My master used to think highly of me. He wouldn't kill me to silence me. As long as I get the Tai Ching illusionary pill and break through to the out-of-body stage, I will become a genius disciple of Danding's sect again. He wouldn't be willing to kill such an outstanding disciple," Su Zai said with a trembling voice. However, he had to admit that what Kumu said was right. After Shi Minghui died, Shi Dengtian had completely changed. If the previous Shi Dengtian was just a scheming branch master, then the current Shi Dengtian was a cruel devil. A disciple with poor talent who had just entered the sect was cruelly killed by Shi Dengtian. Su Zai had seen his own senior brother, an out-of-body stage alchemist who had just passed the rank 5 alchemist qualification examination. He had a high status in the sect and was a disciple who was highly regarded by his master. However, in Shi Minghui's mourning hall, because he didn't place Shi Minghui's memorial tablet properly, his left leg was broken by his master. Shi Dengtian was so heavy-handed to a disciple who was highly regarded, and Su Zai was just a has-been genius disciple. If he was defeated by Mu Yu, he would be nothing. If he killed Kumu, perhaps Shi Dengtian would really abandon the rook to save the king and kill him to silence him. Outstanding? Are all outstanding disciples so low in IQ? You can't even think of this. How can you be considered an outstanding disciple? Let me tell you, if you kill me, Shi Dengtian will kill you. Even if the sect leader finds out that it was you who died, he will definitely say that you committed suicide to escape punishment. It was only because you and Shi Minghui had a deep relationship that you made a move on me. At that time, you will have died in vain and carry a lifetime of infamy." Kumu looked at Su Zai as if he was looking at a pitiful worm. He could guess what kind of person this disciple was from Su Zai's changing expressions. He had to think of a way to break Su Zai's psychological defense and stall for time. As long as the old man rushed back, then his life would be saved. Deadwood wasn't afraid of death, but he didn't want to die before he could confirm Mu Yu's safety. "You should stop while it's still early. That way he could survive. If you kill me, Shi Dengtian will kill you in order to clear his suspicions. Not only will he have his revenge, he will even be able to sit back and relax as the branch master. You are nothing more than a chess piece that he has discarded," Dead Tree Evergreen said in a heavy voice. He was not an expressive person, but when faced with life-threatening situations, people were always surprisingly calm. Su Zai clenched his fists as his body trembled uncontrollably. Kumu's analysis had shaken his killing intent. His heart suddenly fell into an ice cellar. Was his master really going to sacrifice himself to avenge Shi Minghui? He had always been the disciple that his master valued. Just because he lost to Mu Yu, He lost his master's favor and was even treated as a chess piece that was casually discarded by his master. At that time, Su Zi's talent was outstanding, and he was one of the top young disciples of Tianji Peak. At that time, how glorious was he? Even Shi Dangtian praised him endlessly. At that time, Shi Dangtian did his best to nurture him and wanted to send him to the second layer of heaven. But after losing to Mu Yu, he clearly felt that Shi Dangtian started to resent him and even felt that he had lost Tianji Peak's face, so he didn't want to see him. Now that he was sent to carry out this dangerous mission, he seemed to have become dispensable. Su Zi didn't dare to accept this fact. His face twisted. "You're lying. Master wouldn't treat me like this. Even so, it was caused by you. If I wasn't your disciple, how could Master throw me away like trash? Don't think that I won't kill you like this. As long as I kill you, I will become the disciple that Master values again. He won't bear to kill me. He won't." Su Zi's eyes turned red. His face revealed a crazed expression as he roared nonstop. He wasn't willing to believe Ku Mu's words. He wanted to prove his worth again. As long as he killed Ku Mu, he would definitely regain his former glory. "Kneel down. You, a damned person, actually want to shake my determination. Don't think that I will believe you." Su Zi, it was like a wild beast that lost control. His nascent soul aura poured down on Ku Mu's body. Ku Mu's face turned pale, and a trace of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. But he still persisted. His face was full of ridicule, and he didn't kneel down. "Kneel down." Su Zi kicked Ku Mu's knee. Ku Mu couldn't withstand Su Zi's strength. His body tilted and fell to the ground. "Huh? What green bamboo peak branch master? Didn't you fall in front of me? Do you think you can escape death like this?" Su Zi had already gone crazy. He reached out and grabbed Ku Mu's neck. He roared, "You are nothing in front of me. If Master wants you to die, you must die. Only when you die can I have my own future again." Su Zi threw Ku Mu away ruthlessly. Ku Mu groaned. With his cultivation, he didn't have any room to resist Su Zi. He fell heavily on the wall. A huge rebound force surged out from the wall, causing him to fall to the ground once again. "My master won't kill me to silence me. I am Master's confidant." Su Zi kicked Ku Mu's chest. Ku Mu felt his chest tighten and spat out a mouthful of blood. His ribs were already broken. "You are too naive. There are so many outstanding disciples under Shi Dangtian. You haven't even reached the out-of-body stage. How can you be his confidant? Based on my understanding of Shi Dangtian, even if you were his confidant, he won't be merciful." Ku Mu spat out the blood in his mouth and said with difficulty, "Mu Yu escaped from the second heaven, right?" Ku Mu Chongqing had always wanted to confirm this matter. This was a regret in his heart. As long as he could confirm that Mu Yu was fine, even if he died, it wouldn't be a big deal. Yes, he had escaped from his second heaven, but so what? He won't come to save you. Su Zi revealed a ferocious expression. He punched Ku Mu's body and shouted, "Even if I die, I will send you to the coffin first. Everything that happened today was caused by you. If it wasn't for you, why would Mu Yu come to the Danding sect? If he didn't come to the Danding sect, the second heaven spot would be mine. Shi Minghui wouldn't have died, and Master wouldn't have asked me to kill you. My future was limitless. It was you who ruined my future." The punch of a nascent soul stage cultivator was extremely heavy for Ku Mu. If it wasn't for the returning to origin pill that completely transformed Ku Mu's body, making his body stronger than ordinary people, this punch would have taken his life. Ku Mu knew that he would definitely die today. However, he wasn't the kind of person who would give in easily. He would never change his mind about something he had decided on. "People like you don't even deserve to carry my disciple's shoes. Let me tell you, Mu Yu is my disciple and also my child. His talent is 100 times better than yours. Even if I die in the hands of a filthy person like you, you will never reach Mu Yu's height in your lifetime. Mu Yu is the pride of my life. You are nothing in front of him." When Ku Mu said this, his tone was full of pride. It was the pride of a father praising his son. A trace of relief appeared in his eyes. After knowing that Mu Yu escaped from the second heaven, he no longer had any worries. A person's life had many things to be proud of. He saw Mu Yu as his own son and had long treated Mu Yu as his own son. With such a child, what regrets did he have? It's a pity that the disciple you were so proud of won't come to save your life. Su Ziyi pulled out a sword. The bright sword flickered with cold light under the reflection of the sunlight. His heart suddenly surged with an indescribable feeling of carefreeness. He couldn't defeat Mu Yu, but he could torture Mu Yu's master. He could kill Mu Yu's master. If Mu Yu came back and found out that Kumu had died under his sword, then Mu Yu would definitely go crazy, right? At that time, he might have already been silenced by Shi Dengtian. But being able to take revenge on Mu Yu before he died was enough to make him smile in the underworld. Mu Yu won't let you go. Kumu calmly looked at the sword in Su Ziye's hand. In the face of death, he didn't panic at all. Instead, he appeared very calm. After confirming from Su Zai that Mu Yu had escaped from the second layer of heaven, he had already let go of his worries. Mu Yu, that child, will avenge me. When his cultivation dissipated, he was already a dead man. It was Mu Yu who saved him. For someone who had died once, death was just a greater adventure. Right now, he's a traitor that everyone in the cultivation world wants to kill. Right now, he has already gone into hiding. Protecting himself is already a problem. Why would he come to avenge you? Stop dreaming. Right now, he's just a coward. He won't be so stupid as to come to the Danding sect to die. Why would such a powerful disciple of yours allow you to be imprisoned? It's because he is afraid of death. I know that you are waiting for your disciple. Unfortunately, your disciple won't care about your life or death. You beg me for mercy. I won't kill you if you beg me for mercy. If you say that your disciple is a good-for-nothing, I won't kill you. Su Ziyi roared. He began to be jealous of Mu Yu. He wanted to hear Ku Mu belittle Mu Yu. Only then would his heart be balanced. Just kill me. I won't doubt my disciple for the sake of my life. I am different from Shi Dengtian. I trust my disciple. Ku Mu Chongqing laughed. When a person is about to die, his words are kind. These words were always from the bottom of his heart. However, with his personality, he would never say it out loud. But now, he understood that he couldn't survive in the hands of the crazy Su Ziyi. So, he might as well tell this pitiful abandoned child what Mu Yu meant to him. Trust. Su Ziye's face was twisted. Ku Mu Chongqing's proud tone when talking about Mu Yu made him very angry. Why? Why would Ku Mu Chongqing trust his disciple so much while Shi Dengtian treated him like trash? They were both masters. Why would Ku Mu Chongqing rather die to protect his disciple? And Shi Dengtian actually made him do this kind of suicidal mission? Su Zai was not satisfied. He hated the word trust. He wanted to tear everything apart and personally destroy Ku Mu Chongqing's trust for Mu Yu. He couldn't obtain his master's trust. He wouldn't allow Mu Yu to obtain Ku Mu Chongqing's trust. Let your trust go to hell. Su Ziyi mustered up his courage. A vicious light flashed in his eyes. The sword in his hand was already falling towards Ku Mu's throat. Ku Mu peacefully closed his eyes, but the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. He smiled and said, "Going to hell with my disciple's trust is better than losing it." A cold light flashed. "You don't have the right to live after hurting my master." Like a clap of thunder, Mu Yu's voice exploded in Ku Mu and Su Ziye's ears. Ku Mu opened his eyes in disbelief. Su Ziye's figure had already flown out. What appeared in front of him was a stubborn and angry familiar figure. It seemed so real in his eyes. Ku Mu's eyes suddenly became a little blurry. He had never cried in his life, but because of that figure, his eyes became a little moist. Chapter 295. Bang! Su Ziye's entire body fell heavily, but before he could land on the ground, he was kicked in the face and fell in a different direction. Boom! Mu Yu stepped on Su Zai's chest, causing it to cave in. When Su Zai's frightened gaze landed on Mu Yu's face, he was stunned. Endless anger was written on Mu Yu's face, like a demon god, extremely evil. That trace of cold aura was like a needle, instantly piercing through his confidence. You deserve to die. Mu Yu punched Su Zai's face, causing half of his face to be badly mutilated. Suzai never knew what despair was before. He never felt despair. That is, if today was not counted. Mu Yu's shadow clone swords ruthlessly pierced through his body. A total of 5 swords pierced through his hands and feet, firmly nailing him to the ground. His abdomen was also hit by a sword. These 5 swords would not kill him, but they would make him suffer a fate worse than death. The blood in his body seemed to be boiling, but also seemed to be frozen. The feeling of ice and fire was unbearable. What was even more frightening was that there seemed to be something in his body that was corroding his nerves, as if millions of ants were gnawing on them. He never knew that not only was Mu Yu's cultivation high, he was also able to fuse with incomplete pills. Most importantly, he had inherited Ku Mu's legacy. He was an expert in using poison. Old master. Mu Yu's face was terrifyingly gloomy. He hugged Ku Mu in his arms. Looking at the bloodstains on Ku Mu's body, he was extremely furious. He did not understand why Ku Mu had to bear the consequences for him. All the trouble was caused by him, but Ku Mu was the one who paid the price. He felt very guilty, just like how Ku Mu did not want him to be hurt. He also did not want to see Ku Mu's old man almost lose his life for him. I'm sorry, master." Mu Yu's body was trembling. The gloominess in his eyes disappeared. The vitality in his body was like a worthless flood, rushing towards Ku Mu's body. This stubborn old man, at this moment, almost made Mu Yu lose her mind. Because of Mu Yu's mistake, Deadwood had to endure pain that shouldn't have belonged to him. Why is it that when you call me master, I always feel that it's not pleasing to the ear? Ku Mu forced a smile, and blood once again flowed out from the corner of his mouth. I'm sorry. It's my fault. Mu Yu was so upset that his stomach twisted into a ball. He hurriedly took out all kinds of healing pills and fed them to Deadwood. He forced himself to calm down. He had many life-saving pills on him, so he could not afford to lose his cool. Don't worry, he won't die. Xiao Shui wagged his big tail. Mu Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Little Shui was like a grim reaper. If it said that someone would die, then that person would not live. But if it said that Deadwood would not die, then Deadwood really would not die. Ku Mu's expression eased a lot. He smiled and said, "It's a pity that I can't die." Mu Yu also smiled, but his smile was very forced. He then sighed and said, "Why did you provoke him? Can't you just say that I'm a good-for-nothing? I don't care about that." A good-for-nothing? The dead tree looked into Mu Yu's eyes. He couldn't believe that this heartless guy would actually panic like this because of him. He felt a burst of amusement in his heart, but there was also endless satisfaction in his amusement. Deadwood stopped smiling and forced a straight face. If my disciple was a good-for-nothing, I would definitely kick him out of the sect. Mu Yu used his spiritual power to clean up the wounds on Deadwood's body. Then, he used his own life force to heal these wounds. He saw that Deadwood's injuries had stabilized, so he continued to say, "So I'm still your disciple, right? Forget it for now," Deadwood said reluctantly. Mu Yu laughed. This old man never knew how to say anything good. Mu Yu tilted his head and thought for a while. Then, he asked curiously, "I think I just heard you praise me?" Deadwood glared at Mu Yu and said, "Are you deaf? I never praise people. I never praise people." Deadwood had never praised Mu Yu, at least not in front of Mu Yu. With Deadwood's stubborn personality, praising people was not his style. Even if he said it, he would deny it. "But I clearly heard you say that I'm your pride. Quickly tell me what I do that makes you proud." Mu Yu helped Deadwood sit up and help him tidy up his clothes. "Proud my ass. You make me angry every day and make me worry for nothing. What's there to be proud of?" Deadwood raised his hand strenuously and weakly hit the back of Mu Yu's head. "Stubborn old man, really. Will telling the truth in front of me make you lose an eyebrow?" Mu Yu muttered. Little Shui was helping him deal with the broken bones on his body, and he was helping him on the side. The master and disciple talked to each other in a familiar tone, as if nothing had happened. They completely ignored Suzai, who was lying on the ground in pain. Mu Yu had a lot of healing pills, most of which came from the old man guarding the pavilion. There was also a lot of powder from Deadwood. Not to mention, he still had a vigorous life force. Under these conditions, Deadwood's desire to die seemed to be an extravagant hope. Next, it's time to settle the score. Muyu's clear eyes became incomparably gloomy after leaving the dead tree. His hidden anger seemed to have burst out all of a sudden. With a wave of his hand, 5 shadow swords directly brought Su Zai from the ground into the air. Why are you here? Su Zai's muscles and bones felt like they were about to fall apart. He suddenly wished that he could die immediately, but he couldn't muster any strength. He didn't even have the strength to bite his tongue. The poison that Muyu applied on his body was too terrifying. You should feel lucky that I let you live for another 15 minutes. It would be a pity to kill you directly. On the way here, Muyu didn't choose to kill Su Zai directly. With his current out-of-body stage strength, killing Su Zai, who was in the nascent soul stage, was just a matter of moving his finger. But his mind was very clear. He needed to save Deadwood first. What do you want? Su Zai asked angrily. He regretted talking too much nonsense. He knew that he would die no matter what. So why didn't he just kill Deadwood earlier? That way, he could at least drag someone down with him. He chose to be a bad person, so unknowingly, he had the characteristics of a bad person. The biggest characteristic of a bad person was that they talked a lot. They would always talk until others chased them away. Old man, how should we deal with him? When Muyu turned to Deadwood, the anger on his face disappeared again. It seemed that his anger was extinguished in an instant. In front of Deadwood, he would always be that sloppy brat. He would never show his angry side to Deadwood. Deadwood looked at Su Zai's painful expression and said softly, "Let him go. Killing him will dirty our hands. Sure, Deng Tian will definitely not let him live." Su Zai was stunned. Deadwood actually didn't kill him? I didn't kill you, so Master has no reason to kill me. If you let me go, you will regret it. Su Zai sneered. Old man, aren't you going to kill him? Okay. Muyu silently withdrew the shadow clone sword from Su Zai's body. Su Zai's entire body fell to the ground like a broken sandbag. His face was distorted from the pain. Hatred and unwillingness were still written on his face. He couldn't move because Muyu had cut off his meridians. Just you wait. I will definitely come back for revenge. Su Zai wriggled strenuously. He was like a dirty slug wriggling on the ground. However, at this moment, the tip of a sword suddenly appeared at Su Zai's heart. The tip of the sword was riddled with holes, as if it had been eaten by worms. It was extremely ugly, but it was this broken sword that had already destroyed his hope of survival. Su Zai's eyes widened. With his last breath, he unwillingly questioned, You said you wouldn't kill me. Muyu sneered. I never said that. Deadwood didn't want to kill Su Zai, but that didn't mean that Muyu wouldn't kill him. Dragons have reverse scales. Those who touch them will definitely die. The hole at the tip of Mu Ling's sword was like a whirlpool, sucking away Su Zai's life force. It was a kind of joy that filled the entire Mu Ling's sword. Su Zai's eyes gradually stopped moving. His eyes were wide open. He still didn't understand why he would die in such a ridiculous way. He wanted to kill Deadwood to take revenge on Muyu, but Muyu didn't give him a chance at all. I thought you didn't like to kill people. Deadwood looked at Muyu and found that Muyu was also looking at him. It was as if Su Zai's death was just an ordinary thing that wasn't worth mentioning in their eyes. Deadwood didn't want Muyu to kill Su Zai because he knew that Muyu never liked to kill people. Muyu liked peace and prosperity. Deadwood didn't want Muyu to go against Muyu's original intentions because of him. I still don't like to kill people, but people who hurt the old man don't deserve to live. What's more, the old man rarely praised me. I'm the old man's pride. How can I let people who hurt the old man live? Muyu said with a very serious expression. I never praise people. Deadwood impatiently emphasized again, but he couldn't hide the trace of pride at the corner of his mouth. Muyu always liked to make him angry and deliberately annoyed him, but when it came to matters of principle, Muyu would never let Deadwood suffer. After a long time, he said, You don't have to kill people for me. Killing a person wasn't a big deal to Deadwood. He had lived for most of his life, and the cultivation world was full of deception. He had killed countless cultivators without batting an eye. But it was different for Muyu. Muyu strongly rejected the feeling of killing people. He knew that Muyu hid Yumon's ability, so he didn't want Muyu to kill people for him. Muyu shook his head and said, I thought about it a long time ago. This is the way the world is. If you don't kill people, there will always be people who will kill you. Since they don't cherish their lives, why should I protect their lives? Muyu used to respect life and felt that taking away a person's life was a very cruel thing. But when the dark side of the cultivation world appeared in front of him, he felt that his thoughts were ridiculous. Life was precious, but people who didn't respect life didn't deserve to live. He didn't need to sympathize with them. Bang! But at this moment, a spark suddenly flashed in the sky. It resounded through the clouds and didn't stop for a long time. The spark was so dazzling that it gradually formed a huge pill cauldron. It was like a Buddha's angry lotus, which instantly alarmed the entire Danding sect. This was the Danding sect's distress signal. The disciples of the Danding sect would only send out this kind of signal when something big happened. Muyu frowned. He looked at Su Zai, who was like a pile of mud. Su Zai's body was stained with blood, but he was still holding the string of the signal spark in his hand. Chapter 296. The signal flare shone in the air, lighting up the faces of the master and disciple. Go quickly. Leave this place. Dead Tree pushed Muyu, looking very anxious. Countless whistling sounds came from the distance. Many disciples of the Danding sect saw the signal flare and rushed here. The disciples who were meditating on the refining heart cliff also went to the Dan imprisoning array at the bottom of the cliff. Every disciple of the Danding sect had a distress signal, but this kind of signal rarely appeared in the Danding sect. Unless there was a serious matter, no one dared to release this kind of signal. For so many years, this signal had only appeared twice. The first time was when the White Ape Demon King escaped last year, and the other time was tonight. Let's go together. How can we break this array? Muyu shook his head. He came back to save Dead Tree. How could he abandon Dead Tree and leave alone? We can't break it. Only the head of the Danding sect has the ability to break the Dan imprisoning array. If you don't leave now, when all the people of the Danding sect come here, you won't be able to leave. Dead Tree urged anxiously. He knew more about the Danding sect than Muyu. Once the signal flare appeared, everyone would come. Muyu had the ability to control wood, so it was not a problem for him to escape. However, if the two of them went together, they would definitely not be able to escape. Muyu was now only at the out-of-body stage. There were many out-of-body stage experts in the Danding sect. There were also many experts in the Funshin stage and the form synthesis stage. Not to mention, there was also Shi Dangtian, who was eager to kill Muyu. Once Shi Dangtian came and saw Muyu, Muyu could only show his ability to control what in front of them. In this way, Muyu's situation would be even more dangerous. This is all because of me. I will take responsibility for my own actions. It has nothing to do with you. You don't have to suffer here. Dead Tree was imprisoned here because he was implicated by Muyu. If Muyu escaped now, it meant that Dead Tree would suffer for a long time. Muyu was not the kind of person who would escape and let others bear the consequences for him. Are you angry with me? Do you still want to save your bastard master? Dead Tree said angrily. You are also my master. Old master, don't scold yourself for no reason. It's not good for your health. I'll explain it to them myself. Muyu knew that Kumu was talking about Feng Haochen, but Muyu now also regarded Kumu as his master. No matter what, neither of them should suffer. The Dead Tree was speechless. He wanted to say something, but couldn't. However, Muyu had already stood up. He planned to lay his cards on the table with the people of the Pill Cauldron School. Wait a minute, take this. Kumu threw a green token to Muyu. The token was octagonal and had a pill cauldron engraved on it. It was the token of the Pill Cauldron School's branch master and symbolized the supreme status of the Pill Cauldron School. The Danding sect had a total of 5 of these tokens. Once the token was taken out, it represented the dignity of the Danding sect. All the disciples of the Danding sect had to salute it. Isn't this? Muyu was surprised. Well, he had entered the Pill Cauldron sect with Dead Tree. Dead Tree had used this to prove his identity. This token was very intimidating. All the disciples of the Pill Cauldron School recognized it. From now on, you're the new branch master of the Pill Cauldron School's Green Bamboo Peak. If Senior Brother Yundan or others make things difficult for you, take this. At least they won't kill you, Kumu said worriedly. Back then, it was the identity of the branch master that saved Kumu's life. No one in the Pill Cauldron School had the right to kill the branch master, not even Taoist Yundan. If the branch master made a mistake, he would be imprisoned for life. This was also the reason why Kumu was able to survive. Muyu took the token and caught it. He smiled calmly and said, "Do I need to kneel in front of you and solemnly accept the position of branch master? Kowtow a few times, stretch out a few fingers, and swear allegiance to the Pill Cauldron School? For some form of formality? Scram, I don't care. At this juncture, you're still in the mood to joke. Are you asking for a beating?" Kumu scolded. He couldn't walk out of the pill confinement array now, and Muyu refused to leave alone. He was very worried about Muyu, but this little bastard looked indifferent, which made him very angry. "Oh, right, there's one more thing. I left something behind." After scolding, Kumu seemed to have remembered something. He walked to the corner of the pill confinement array, fumbled around, and took out a demon spirit. He threw it to Muyu. "This is..." Muyu looked at the demon spirit in his hand in surprise. "I originally prepared it for Shi Dangtian, but Shi Dangtian knew that I would have a backup plan, so he sent Suzai to kill me," Kumu said. "I understand." Muyu nodded thoughtfully. Many people had gradually surrounded the pill confinement array. They looked at Muyu, who walked out of the pill confinement array, and, at the same time, their eyes fell on Suzai on the ground. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Suzai's body was badly mutilated, and there was a big bloody hole in his chest. His death was extremely tragic. "Traitor, you dare to kill another fellow disciple." A nascent soul-stage disciple shouted angrily when he saw Suzai. Muyu glanced at him and said indifferently, "What? Do you want to avenge him?" The aura of an out-of-body stage disciple swept over. His face turned pale, and he took a few steps back. He looked at Muyu in horror and didn't dare to say anything. "You're still so arrogant after killing someone. Take him down." An out-of-body stage disciple shouted angrily. More and more people had rushed over. Many guards also pointed their spears at Muyu. "You're just a bunch of rotten potatoes and stinky bird eggs. I can even kill a 9th heavenly layer out-of-body stage disciple. If you're confident that you're stronger than the demon clan, you can come and try." Muyu raised his eyebrows. Even if this group of people all rushed over, they still wouldn't be his opponent. Out-of-body stage alchemists were not worth mentioning in front of him. The people who rushed over were all young nascent soul stage and out-of-body stage disciples, but none of them dared to take the lead. Many people had heard of Muyu's fierce reputation. He had just stepped into out-of-body stage, but he had already defeated a 9th heavenly layer out-of-body stage demon. As for these self-cultivators who only knew how to concoct pills, they were famous for their weak fighting strength. Perhaps even a few out-of-body stage cultivators together wouldn't be enough to defeat Muyu. For a moment, these Danding sect disciples were really frightened by Muyu. Even the guards looked at each other and didn't dare to step forward. "I only want to talk to the sect master." Muyu looked around. He didn't believe that Taoist Yundan wouldn't come out when such a big thing happened. "Brad, I want to talk to you first." "Die!" Shi Dangtian shouted angrily as he took a step forward from afar. His figure was like a bolt of lightning as he arrived in front of Muyu in the blink of an eye. Without saying a word, he slammed his palm towards Muyu. Muyu's expression changed slightly. This old bastard actually tried to kill Muyu the moment he arrived. He wanted to silence him before Taoist Yundan arrived. Shi Dangtian was originally in the pill hall like everyone else. But when the signal flare appeared, he rushed out faster than everyone else. He wanted to kill Muyu before anyone else. Otherwise, he wouldn't have a chance to do so anymore, because he knew what the supreme immortal leaderboard was. "Don't think that I'm that easy to kill." Muyu directly swallowed the Heaven's Mandate Bone Emperor pill. This pill was a rank 6 pill. The old man told him that if he took this pill, he would be safe and sound even if he was besieged by a spirit-severing stage expert. As long as he could hold on for a period of time, when Taoist Yundan and Lung Bingshu arrived, Shi Dingtian wouldn't dare to attack him anymore. A powerful spiritual power instantly strengthened Mu Yu's bones and muscles. It was as if he was covered with a layer of solid shield. Mu Yu's body suddenly felt as if there was an endless amount of energy. He couldn't wait to vent it out. He suddenly remembered the sword intent in his right hand. Even though Mu Yu had stepped into the out-of-body stage, the sword intent was still not something he could control. But now that he had consumed the Bone Emperor pill, his bones and muscles were strengthened to a terrifying level. Even if he used the sword intent, it wouldn't cause any damage to him. His gaze focused. The shadow clone sword in his hand was mixed with a lonely and domineering sword intent. He pushed it to the limit. The awe-inspiring sword chi swept out and welcomed Shi Dongtian's palm. Boom! The violent spiritual power sent everyone flying. Mu Yu was slapped into the refining heart cliff by Shi Dongtian's palm. He actually sank halfway into the refining heart cliff. Even the towering heart refining cliff began to shake, and a shocking human-shaped hole appeared in it. Shi Dongtian's cultivation was at the spirit-severing stage, which was one stage higher than Mu Yu. His palm was filled with the determination to kill, so he didn't show any mercy. Ordinary spirit-severing stage cultivators didn't dare to face it, let alone Mu Yu, who had just stepped into the out-of-body stage. How long has it been since I saw Elder Shi make a move? It's too scary. This Mu Yu is too arrogant. He actually dares to face Elder Shi head-on. Is he so confident that he can compete with a spirit-severing stage cultivator? I'm afraid this Mu Yu is really finished. It's a pity that he was so tough before. In the end, he still buried himself. Yeah, he came to our Danding sect to kill people, not to mention that Shi Minghui also died in his hands. How can Elder Shi show mercy in this palm? Everyone saw that Mu Yu was sent flying, and they all ridiculed Mu Yu for overestimating his own strength. However, no one noticed the expression on Shi Dongtian's face. He clenched his fist in horror. He thought that Mu Yu was just an out-of-body stage cultivator, and his sword was just a symbolic defense. He didn't expect that the penetrating power of Mu Yu's sword was so strong that it actually caused his palm to ache. If he didn't stop in time, he was afraid that the sword would have pierced through his palm. How is this possible? He was a spirit-severing stage cultivator. How could the sword of an out-of-body stage cultivator threaten him? Shi Dongtian put away his surprised expression. He thought that it must be because he was in a hurry to kill someone, and that's why he was threatened by Mu Yu's sword. Even if you beat him to death, he didn't believe that Mu Yu, who was in the out-of-body stage, could hurt him. He was indeed a weak alchemist, but his weak fighting strength was only relative to people in the same stage. Mu Yu is a whole stage lower than him. Humph! You killed my pill cauldron sex people. Let the Demon King go, and now you want to break into the prison. You deserve to die. Shi Dongtian suddenly felt very happy. He was sure that Mu Yu had been smashed into pieces by that palm strike just now. Thinking that he could finally avenge his grandson, he could finally let go of the hatred that had accumulated in his heart for more than a year. He glanced sideways at Su Zai, who was lying on the ground covered in blood, and cursed in his heart, "Trash, that's good. I don't have to do it myself." Shi Dongtian, Mu Yu is the new branch master of the Green Bamboo Peak. Stop. At this moment, the dead tree's face was full of anxiety, but he couldn't see the situation outside in the Dan imprisoning formation, and he couldn't transmit his voice, so no one else could hear what he was saying. It's a pity that you can't see the situation outside. Otherwise, I would let you enjoy how your disciple dies in front of you. Shi Dongtian stared viciously at the dead tree in the Dan imprisoning formation. He didn't hear what the dead tree was saying, and even if he did, he wouldn't stop. To him, only Mu Yu's death could comfort his grandson's soul in heaven. Congratulations to Elder Shi for taking revenge. That's right, junior brother Shi Minghui can rest in peace in heaven. Many disciples hurriedly said. At this time, the appropriate compliments would naturally gain Shi Dongtian's favor. Not only am I taking revenge for my grandson, I'm also eliminating the traitor for the entire cultivation world. Mu Yu released the Demon King and threatened the peace of the human race. This kind of person would be letting him off easy even if he died 10,000 times. Shi Dongtian said righteously. Although they knew that Shi Dingtian was just looking for an excuse, all the disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect still agreed. However, a discordant voice sounded once again. Cough, cough, Shi Dingtian, did you not eat? Why do you have no strength? No one expected that Mu Yu's voice would suddenly come from halfway up the heart-refining cliff. That voice was as soft as a mosquito, but stunned everyone. Chapter 297. Bang! Mu Yu slowly flew out from the middle of the refining heart cliff. His clothes were ragged, and his clothes had been reduced to rags. He looked particularly battered and exhausted. However, to everyone's disbelief, there was not a single wound on Mu Yu's body. What? Am I seeing things? Mu Yu is still alive? Oh my God, isn't he an out-of-body stage cultivator? How can he still be alive after taking a slap from a spirit-severing stage cultivator? Is he a ghost? All the disciples of Danding's sect were dumbfounded. They could not believe the scene in front of them. They knew that Mu Yu was very abnormal. When he just stepped into out-of-body stage, he defeated a 9th layer out-of-body stage demon race. But after all, he was still in the out-of-body stage, so it was still acceptable. However, Shi Dingtian was a real spirit-severing stage cultivator. How could an out-of-body stage cultivator block a blow from a spirit-severing stage cultivator? If it was anyone else present, they would have been blasted into nothingness by Shi Dingtian. Was this guy a cockroach? It was fine if a 2nd layer could not trap him to death, but how could a spirit-severing stage cultivator not kill him with a slap? Mu Yu raised his head and looked at Shi Dingtian provocatively. His eyes were full of ridicule. That trace of ridicule reflected in Shi Dingtian's eyes was like a bolt from the blue, shocking him quite a bit. Impossible, it's impossible. How can you be safe and sound? Shi Dingtian looked at Mu Yu in shock. He could not believe his eyes. How could this person who he hated so much be able to take a fatal blow from him? Since when did he become so strong? I already said that you haven't eaten. I think you should go back and eat before coming back. Mu Yu moved his muscles and bones. The sword intent in his hand became more and more turbulent. He finally understood why the Nameless Swordsman said that it was impossible for Mu Yu to use up the sword intent with his cultivation during the Jindan period. The sword intent of the Nameless Swordsman was actually equivalent to a strike of the spirit-severing stage. How could Mu Yu fully exert the true power of the sword intent when he was only in the Jindan period? In the past, every time Mu Yu used the sword intent, his arm would shatter into pieces. That was because his body could not withstand the powerful sword intent. Once the sword intent was fully unleashed, not only his arm, but his entire body would be smashed into pieces. The Nameless Swordsman had purposely suppressed the sword intent so that it could exert a certain amount of power within the limits of Mu Yu's body. And now, because of the Bone Emperor pill, Mu Yu's body had reached an unprecedented level of hardness. The Nameless Swordsman's sword intent was released without reservation, and it was also this sword intent that almost caused Mu Yu to be injured to the point of ascending to the heavens. It turns out that the Nameless Sword intent is so terrifying. To be able to seal the sword intent of the spirit-severing stage in Mu Yu's body, this meant that the Nameless Swordsman's cultivation was far above the spirit-severing stage. Mu Yu did not expect that the arrogant man he met outside Lanshi City had such a profound cultivation. At that time, he was still bargaining with the other party. He was very lucky that he was not killed. Bone Emperor Pill, you actually have this kind of thing. But don't think that I can't do anything to you just because you are hiding in your turtle shell. Shi Dingtian himself was an alchemist, so he could see at a glance what was protecting Mu Yu. The Bone Emperor Pill could protect Mu Yu for a quarter of an hour, but Taoist Yundan and the others were already on their way. He could not wait for the Bone Emperor Pill to lose its effect in a quarter of an hour. And Shi Dingtian knew the weakness of the Bone Emperor Pill. The Bone Emperor Pill could protect a person's entire body, but there was a weak point in the person's dantian. That was the weakness of the Bone Emperor Pill. With Shi Dingtian's speed and cultivation at the spirit-severing stage, he could directly use this weak point to kill Mu Yu. Go to hell! Shi Dingtian roared. as fast as lightning. His palm was already slapping towards Muyu's dantian. He knew that Muyu could not dodge because his speed was several times faster than Muyu. He could definitely cripple the murderer of his grandson. He could not miss this good opportunity. Junior brother, stop. However, at this moment, Daoist Yundan and the others had also arrived. When they saw Shi Dangtian attacking Muyu, Daoist Yundan immediately shouted. Shi Dangtian did not stop. He could not stop. His enemy was right in front of him. He had to avenge his grandson with his own hands. If he missed today, he would not be able to kill his enemy with his own hands because the third palace had already released the Supreme Immortal List, the list that no cultivator in the world dared to disobey. He knew what the Supreme Immortal List was. The Supreme Immortal List of the Third Palace was a list that he did not dare to disobey. And Muyu's name was on the Supreme Immortal List. A trace of ruthlessness appeared in his eyes. He ignored Daoist Yundan's words and continued to rush towards Muyu. As long as Muyu was not recognized by the Supreme Immortal List, he would not be punished by the Third Palace if he killed Muyu. Daoist Yundan was shocked and furious. Shi Dangtian dared to disobey his orders. The old man guarding the pavilion also shouted angrily. He was faster than everyone else. He wanted to stop Shi Dangtian before he killed Muyu. However, Shi Dangtian was too close to Muyu. Even the old man guarding the pavilion could not stop him. However, no one expected that Muyu did not choose to dodge. Instead, he rushed towards Shi Dangtian. He turned into 6 shadows. Each shadow held a shadow sword. The shadow swords were intertwined and independent of each other, performing the supreme sword technique of the sky, Sword 9 guides. Then, the 6 shadows suddenly merged into one. Only the shadow sword was left. In everyone's eyes, the shadow sword looked so sacred, like a heavenly sword that could punish evil. Surging sword chi shot out from the shadow sword. Muyu's arm shook, and an aura that was not weaker than Shi Dangtian's aura was suddenly added to the shadow sword. That sword was so simple. There was nothing fancy. It was just a light stab, and it met Shi Dangtian's palm. Everyone thought that Muyu was overestimating himself. However, they saw that Shi Dangtian's expression suddenly changed. The terrifying sword chi of the shadow sword instantly dispersed Shi Dangtian's palm. The overbearing sword chi instantly invaded Shi Dangtian's body. Shi Dangtian was shocked to find that the terrifying sword chi was actually so terrifying. However, he was an alchemist after all. He understood the condition of his body very well. He quickly dissolved the sword chi. However, the huge impact still sent Shi Dangtian flying. Shi Dangtian was like a sandbag. He fell heavily on the ground, creating a big pit. Only a string of blood droplets remained in the air. Those were the blood droplets of a spirit-severing stage cultivator. Silence. The whole audience was silent. They looked at Shi Dangtian in disbelief. Everyone could not close their mouths. If Muyu did not die after receiving Shi Dangtian's palm, they could still accept it, because Shi Dangtian had already said that it was the effect of the Bone Emperor pill. However, at this moment, Shi Dangtian was sent flying by Muyu. Everyone could not believe it for a while. Was this a joke? The spirit-severing stage, Shi Dangtian, was actually defeated by the out-of-body stage Muyu, including Daoist Yundan and the old man who were about to save Muyu. They were all stunned. They were already prepared to stop Shi Dangtian and protect Muyu. However, no one expected that Muyu was actually faster than them. He used a terrifying sword technique to instantly defeat Shi Dangtian. Many people pinched themselves and felt pain. Only then did they realize that this was not a dream, but a terrifying thing that really happened. Muyu, who was at out-of-body stage, defeated Shi Dangtian, who was at Funshin stage. Is this brat real? The old man swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Daoist Yundan was also shocked. An out-of-body stage cultivator defeated a spirit-severing stage cultivator. This was unprecedented. Everyone would think that this was impossible, because the gap between out-of-body stage and spirit-severing stage was too big. It was an insurmountable gap. However, this brat brought back by Deadwood actually made many impossibilities possible. During the Jindan period, he killed a nascent soul stage cultivator, subdued the 10,000 years dragon vine, fused the incomplete pill that all alchemists were helpless against, released the demon king, and was trapped in the second celestial layer. Then, he mysteriously slipped out of the second celestial layer. Then, he defeated a spirit-severing stage cultivator in the first celestial layer of out-of-body stage. Muyu seemed to always create miracles for people, subverting people's understanding of cultivation. He's really a monster. The old man tugged at his own beard. The effect of the bone emperor pill in Muyu's body gradually dissipated. He shook his head regretfully. After all, this sword technique relied on external force. Although Shi Dingtian was sent flying by himself, he did not suffer any substantial damage. The sword intent on his arm had also been exhausted in the attack just now. This meant that he could no longer use the sword intent of the nameless swordsman to save his life. Muyu turned his gaze to Taoist Yundan and the others. Now that he no longer had any means to save his life, if these people wanted to force him to stay, he had no way to do it. However, he did not leave because he believed that Taoist Yundan was not an unreasonable person. Shi Dingtian stood up from the ground with his face covered in dust. Muyu's sword had only injured him slightly. He only needed to catch his breath for a moment before recovering. However, he, a spirit-severing stage cultivator, was actually injured by Muyu, who was in the out-of-body stage. If this spread out, he was afraid that he would lose face, not to mention that it was in front of everyone. Many disciples and elders of Danding's sect also witnessed it. Shi Dingtian's face alternated between red and white. He failed to kill his enemy and was slapped in the face. He wished he could find a hole to hide in. He glared angrily at the figure in the air that he hated, but he could no longer make a move because he no longer had any chance. The old man, Taoist Yundan, and the others would not let him make a move. Everyone stared blankly at the ragged yet calm figure in the air. They still had not recovered from the shock. Greetings to Martial Uncle sect leader and seniors. Elder Shi wanted to give me some pointers on my cultivation. I had no choice but to give him my all. I had made a fool of myself. Muyu calmly cupped his hands and said, showing extreme courtesy, "Pointers? Made a fool of?" Only then did the old man, Taoist Yundan, and the others come back to their senses. Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva and looked at Muyu as if they were looking at a monster. Pointer's your sister. A spirit-severing stage cultivator gave pointers to an out-of-body stage cultivator, and he was sent flying. Who was the one who made a fool of himself? Chapter 298. The sun was still shining on the Refining Heart Cliff, covering it with a layer of golden light, making it look so elegant and serene. At this moment, there were already many Danding sect disciples gathered at the Refining Heart Cliff. These people were all respected alchemists in the cultivation world. However, at this moment, everyone's expression was as if they had seen a ghost. They were all looking at a young man dressed like a beggar. When Muyu said that she would give them pointers and ridicule them, everyone's expression was very strange. After a while, Taoist Yundan recovered from his shock. He realized that he had lost his composure. So he coughed and said in a dignified manner, "Muyu, why did you make the pill imprisoning array so foul?" Taoist Yundan's gaze fell on Mu, who was in the 9th pill imprisoning array. Then he saw the bloody corpse beside Mu. His eyelids twitched as he questioned, "You even killed your own sect member?" "Sect master. Suzai wanted to kill my master. Today, I killed him with my own hands. Assassinating a branch master is a capital offense, right?" Muyu said calmly. "Nonsense. Why would Suzai assassinate Kumu?" Shi Dingtian furiously roared. "Then can you tell me why Suzai appeared here? I believe that the pill imprisoning array isn't a place that ordinary disciples can casually enter, right?" Muyu said. "Then why did you appear here?" Shi Dingtian coldly asked. Muyu suddenly took out a round demon spirit. This demon spirit was taken from the mirror beast. It could record everything that happened around the demon spirit. Back then, Kumu had placed one in his valley. Kumu used it to know that Muyu had dealt with the celestial demon tree. Gumu was an expert in using arrays. He used arrays to magnify the mirror image beast demon spirit's ability, allowing the mirror image beast demon spirit to display everything that happened in the day. Muyu injected spiritual energy into the demon spirit. Suddenly, a scene quickly flashed in the air. Everyone clearly saw how Suzai tortured Kumu and even wanted to kill him. In the end, Muyu arrived in time to kill Suzai. The evidence was conclusive. Suzai really deserved to die. Daoist Yunden's eyelids twitched slightly. He glanced at Suzai's corpse and frowned. He knew that Shi Dengtian must have sent his disciples to assassinate Kumu when everyone was not around. He was also slightly angry in his heart. Every injustice had its perpetrator, and every debt had its debtor. Shi Dengtian actually still refused to let Kumu off. However, the demon spirit only showed Suzai's actions. It had nothing to do with Shi Dengtian. Even if Shi Dengtian wanted to kill Muyu just now, Shi Dengtian could still use the excuse that it was to get rid of a scourge for the people, and it would be perfectly justifiable. There was no way Shi Dengtian could be punished for his crime. Suzai deserved to die. Junior Martial Brother Shi, you should reflect on why your disciple killed someone. Daoist Yunden's tone was laced with anger. Reporting to sect head senior brother, Suzai and Shi Mingwei have a very deep relationship. He has always wanted to take revenge for Shi Mingwei. It is my fault for not teaching him well and not noticing his abnormality. I hope sect head senior brother can forgive me. Shi Dengtian directly pushed all the blame away. Muyu simply wanted to point at Shi Dengtian's nose and scold him for being shameless. However, there was nothing he could do. Shi Dengtian was an old fox. How could he possibly let him have something to use against him? Junior Martial Brother Kumu's understanding of array techniques is probably even better than those array masters of the array faction. Daoist Yundan then nodded his head in admiration. This demon spirit only had such a wonderful effect because it was engraved with an array. There were very few people in the world who understood array techniques. In the cultivation world, there was a sect that specialized in array techniques called the Array Faction. Their array techniques were mysterious and profound. However, Kumu's array techniques were never worse than theirs. This was the backup plan that Kumu left behind to prevent himself from dying without knowing why. May I be so bold as to ask sect head a question? What did my master do wrong? Why is he trapped here? Muyu asked in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Daoist Yundan snorted in his heart. This brat still asked the obvious. He said, your relationship with the demon race made everyone in the cultivation world very angry. At first, when you were trapped in the second layer of heaven, the others transferred their anger to your master. Due to the pressure from the outside world, I had no choice but to imprison your master temporarily. Not only did I protect him, but I also gave the outside world an explanation. Are you satisfied with this explanation? So now that I'm back, shouldn't you release my master? Muyu asked. Release your master and arrest you? The corner of Daoist Yunden's mouth twitched. This brat was really straightforward. He secretly ran back to the Danding sect and even killed people. Now, he was actually asking to be released. What did he take the Danding sect for? Muyu curled his lips and said, there's no need to arrest me. I remember that the Danding sect has a rule. If a new sect head appears in a branch, the new sect head can pardon the center of the branch. I wonder if my token will work. The Cyan sect head token appeared in Muyu's hand. The token symbolized the identity of the 5 leaders of the Danding sect. How could it be in Muyu's hand? He's actually the sect head. This is too much. How can he be the sect head? We don't agree. Many disciples of the Danding sect were so angry that they stomped their feet. The moment the Cyan token appeared, many people objected. Even Daoist Yundan showed a surprised expression. Dead Tree gave you the position of sect head? Daoist Yundan asked angrily. Do you know that to become a sect head, you need everyone's consent? Muyu nodded, blinked, and said, of course I know this. A new sect head needs the consent of all the disciples in the branch. Anyway, there are only 2 people in our branch. It doesn't matter who becomes the sect head. My family's old man agrees, and so do I. Doesn't this mean that everyone agrees? You. Taoist Yundan almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The Danding sect was divided into 5 branches. Each branch was independent, but they all obeyed the orders of the main branch. However, because the 5 branches were independent, the other branches couldn't participate in the selection of the sect head. As long as an alchemist got the consent of all the disciples in the branch, he could naturally become the new sect head. Who would have thought that Dead Tree's green bamboo peak had already become the sole heir of the branch? There were only 2 people in the branch. Was there a need to hold a vote? The others were also stunned, and their faces suddenly became ugly. They wanted to refute Mu Yu's words, but they couldn't find any reason to. Originally, there were at least 1,000 people in each branch, so the selection of a sect head needed to be approved by the elders and disciples of the branch. Unfortunately, there were so few people in the green bamboo peak that it was really to the point where anyone could be the sect head. I didn't expect you to have this trick up your sleeve, the old man guarding the pavilion said with a smile. Dead Tree, are you crazy? Did you really give him the Pulse Master? Daoist Cloud Pill reached out his hand and pulled Deadwood out of the pill imprisoning formation. Daoist Yundan controlled the pill prison array, so it didn't stop Dead Tree this time. Dead Tree said calmly, Anyway, I've had enough of being the sect head. Everyone in our branch agreed to let Mu Yu play with me. Is that against the rules? Play with him? How did the sect head matter become a joke? Many disciples of the Danding sect almost cursed it out loud. If it weren't for Daoist Yundan and all the other elders present, they would have cursed him with all kinds of unpleasant words. Daoist Yundan was anxious. He shouted, Do you know what you're doing? How can the sect head matter be a joke? I only have 1 disciple. Tell me, who will be the sect head after I die? Dead Tree didn't hold back in front of Daoist Yundan. Daoist Yundan was speechless. He secretly cursed and thought that next time, he must change the rules of the Danding sect's 5 sect heads election. However, changing the rules required the approval of all the elders in the sect. At present, there were still many elders who weren't in the Danding sect. Moreover, changing the rules wasn't something that could be done overnight. Mu Yu, as the branch master, was the only logical thing to do at this moment. So, can you let my master go now? Mu Yu asked. Daoist Yundan's veins were bulging. This master and disciple were really having a lot of fun. However, he couldn't refuse. One of the privileges of a new sect head was to pardon those who had made a big mistake within a year after succeeding the position. He couldn't refuse Mu Yu's request to let Dead Tree go. Daoist Yundan snorted angrily and waved his hand. Golden array patterns emerged from Dead Tree's body and merged back into the pill prison array. Dead Tree's eyes lit up. He had regained his freedom. Mu Yu ran over with a grin, put his arm around Dead Tree's neck, and said, In the future, I will be the sect head of Green Bamboo Peak. I will be in charge of all the big and small matters in the sect, including the people. Do you also have to listen to my orders and can't resist? If I tell you to go east, you can't go west, right? Get lost. Dead Tree had recovered his strength at this moment, and he slapped the back of Mu Yu's head without hesitation. Mu Yu rubbed the back of his head and sighed, and said, Why doesn't the new sect head have any dignity? The old man doesn't even listen to the new sect head. Sect head, do you want to make a decision for me? Make a decision for your sister. Daoist Yundan almost cursed it out loud. All the Danding sect disciples looked at this strange master and disciple, and their hearts were about to explode with anger. Who would have thought that Mu Yu would suddenly become the new branch master? She even wrote off everything that had happened. Wasn't this a bit too much? In fact, Dead Tree didn't expect Mu Yu, the new sect head, to be recognized by Daoist Yundan. Although rules were rules, Mu Yu's current identity was extremely sensitive. Daoist Yundan could choose to expel Mu Yu from the Danding sect and not recognize Mu Yu as a disciple of the Danding sect. In this way, Mu Yu couldn't become the new sect head. For some reason, Daoist Yundan didn't do this. Instead, he regarded Mu Yu as a member of the Danding sect. Taoist Yundan naturally had his reasons. Just as Dead Tree said, everyone in the cultivation world was denouncing Muyu. If Muyu was still in the second heaven at this moment, he definitely wouldn't recognize Muyu as a disciple of the Danding sect. However, Muyu helped the human clan defeat the demon clan in 8 Grass Village. This was enough to make many people have a whole new level of respect for him. Taoist Yundan didn't want to let go of such a dazzling new star. At that time, the White Ape Demon King escaped from the hands of all the elders of the Danding sect. This could be said to be a huge blow to the reputation of the Danding sect. The outside world's cultivation world began to doubt the true strength of the Danding sect. At this moment, the Danding sect urgently needed someone to restore its reputation. Muyu defeated the demon clan and won glory for the human clan. It just so happened that all the cultivation world remembered Muyu from the Danding sect once again. Among the famous sects in the Third Heaven continent, except for Tian Ran, no one defeated the demon clan. However, Muyu defeated 4 demon clan members by himself and became famous. When people mentioned Muyu, they would know that the one who won glory for the human clan was a disciple of the Danding sect. This proved that the strength of the young disciples of the Danding sect couldn't be underestimated. To some extent, Muyu more or less restored the reputation of the Danding sect. The most chilling thing was that Taoist Yundan had already seen Muyu defeat the Severed Soul stage Shi Dengtian with his out-of-body stage cultivation. This matter couldn't be kept a secret. It would definitely spread out and cause a sensation in the cultivation world. At this time, if they drew a clear line with Muyu and didn't recognize Muyu's identity as a disciple of the Danding sect, the Danding sect reputation would be damaged even more. However, Muyu could fuse with the incomplete pill and could also help high-level alchemists expel the wood dregs from their bodies. Wouldn't it be a fool to drive such a talent out of the Danding sect? On the surface, Taoist Yundan pretended to be depressed and dissatisfied. In fact, he didn't plan to continue making things difficult for Muyu. It could be considered as selling a favor to Muyu. At this moment, many high-level alchemists of the Danding sect were troubled by the wood dregs in their bodies and couldn't improve their cultivation. If Muyu could get rid of the wood dregs, he would be the future hope of the entire Danding sect. However, Taoist Cloud Core paid more attention to one thing. That was the Supreme Immortal ranking released by the Third Heaven Palace. And Muyu's name was on the Supreme Immortal ranking. Chapter 299. The Threefold Palace existed to lead the self-cultivators of the 3 continents against Yaman. Leadership wasn't as simple as a slogan. The battle between the human race and Yaman was extremely brutal. The way to defeat Yaman wasn't through sheer numbers, but through battle prowess. Every time the Threefold Palace went to war with Yaman, it would release a Supreme Immortal ranking to select the 9 self-cultivators who could lead the human race. There were 99 candidates on the Supreme Immortal ranking, and they were called Supreme Immortals. Everyone on the Supreme Immortal ranking was the most outstanding self-cultivator of a human race. Anyone under the age of 40 could enter the ranking. They were chosen by the Threefold Palace and entered the ranking. Everyone on the ranking would compete with each other to get into the top 9. At specific times, the Threefold Palace would allow the top 9 Supreme Immortals to enter the mysterious Threefold Palace, where they would be taught extremely profound cultivation techniques. They would be groomed to become the 1 in a million human race leaders to fight against Yaman. The remaining 90 Supreme Immortals would also assist the top 9 Supreme Immortals, becoming outstanding generals under the human race's leadership to fight against Yaman. These 9 Supreme Immortals had a very high status on the 3 continents. Even the sect leaders of the major sects had to bow to them when they saw them. This was because their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds with the help of the Threefold Palace. The other sect leaders could only look up to them. It could be said that these 9 Supreme Immortals represented the highest authority and status in the world of self-cultivators. Their words and actions represented the Threefold Palace, and their orders were the Threefold Palace's orders. They had the right to kill any self-cultivator who disobeyed them, including the sect leaders of the major sects. The 99 Supreme Immortals had to compete with each other to get a ranking. As long as the Threefold Palace didn't release a deadline, the ranking on the ranking list would always fluctuate. Once someone defeated a Supreme Immortal, that person's ranking would be successfully taken over. Once the Supreme Immortal ranking was officially released, there would be people dying on the ranking list every day. However, there would also be people taking their places. Not a single one of the 99 Supreme Immortals would be left behind. This was an extremely cruel competition. If you couldn't survive this cruel rule, then you didn't deserve to be a Supreme Immortal, not to mention leading the race. However, these 99 Extreme Immortals would naturally be secretly protected by the Threefold Palace. According to the rules of the Threefold Palace, only self-cultivators under the age of 40 could kill an Extreme Immortal. If a self-cultivator over 40 killed an Extreme Immortal, he would definitely be punished by the Threefold Palace. The Threefold Palace was a mysterious and unfathomable power. No one knew its true face, but it was a master of its word. It was like an omnipresent specter, observing every single Extreme Immortal. Those who had crossed the line and tried to challenge the authority of the Threefold Palace were undoubtedly killed by the Threefold Palace. The reason why Shi Dingtian wanted to kill Mu Yu in the beginning was because Mu Yu wasn't officially recognized by the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. Even though Mu Yu's name had appeared on the leaderboard, he didn't have any identification, so he wasn't a real Supreme Immortal. Once Mu Yu obtained the identification of the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard, Shi Dingtian wouldn't be able to personally kill him even if he had a deep grudge against him. Daoist Cloud Core received news about the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard from the Threefold Palace. There were 7 people from the Danding sect who had been chosen. They were Daoist Cloud Core's disciples, Lin Tianyu and Bi Wenxuan, Shi Hai from Shi Dungtian's faction, Xiao Hua and Kai Lai from Yao Wuji's faction, Dao Ye from Lung Bingshue's faction, and the last one was Mu Yu. If anyone could become one of the top 9 Supreme Immortals, it would be a matter of glory to their ancestors. They would be able to lead the entire human race. This wasn't just their personal glory, it was the glory of their sect. If Daoist Cloud Core didn't recognize Mu Yu as a member of the Danding sect, then the Danding sect would lose a chance to become famous. Moreover, if Mu Yu became one of the top 9 Supreme Immortals in the future and was dissatisfied with the Danding sect, it would be very easy for him to take revenge on the Danding sect. Daoist Cloud Core stared at Mu Yu. This kid's achievements were already limitless. If he was given time to grow, he might really become one of the top 9 Supreme Immortals. He said, Mu Yu, do you know that you're already on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard? Daoist Cloud Core hadn't told all the disciples of the Danding sect yet, so when they heard the news, they couldn't stay calm. What? He's on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard? I should have known. With his talent, these disciples of the Danding sect knew very well what the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard meant. In fact, everyone in the Threefold Continent knew that those who were on the leaderboard represented the most powerful generation of the human race. Many self-cultivators and even the disciples of the Danding sect would do anything to get on the leaderboard. Unfortunately, Mu Yu didn't know anything about it. He had never heard of the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. Is the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard something very powerful? Mu Yu asked curiously. Feng Haochen had told him a lot of common knowledge about the cultivation world, but there were many things he hadn't mentioned. Daoist Cloud Core was a little surprised. You don't know what the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard is? Should I know? Mu Yu asked. Everyone had been defeated by Mu Yu. Those who could get on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard were all geniuses with outstanding talent. The competition between those on the leaderboard was the true strength of the younger generation of the Threefold Continent. Many people didn't even have the right to be on the leaderboard. However, Mu Yu, who was on the leaderboard, didn't even know about the existence of the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. Beside him, Kumu frowned and said, Senior Marshal Brother, is this true? Mu Yu is really on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard? Mu Yu didn't know about the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. But how could Kumu not know? The appearance of the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard was a very important matter. If Taoist Cloud Core didn't pursue Mu Yu's matter because of this, it would make sense. The more supreme immortals a sect had, the stronger the overall strength of the young disciples of the sect. If Taoist Cloud Core didn't admit that Mu Yu was a disciple of the Pill Cauldron sect, then the Pill Cauldron sect would have one less supreme immortal. With Mu Yu's monstrous talent and potential, it was very likely that he would become one of the 9 supreme immortals. How could Taoist Cloud Core let go of such an opportunity? Do you think I would joke about the supreme immortal leaderboard? Taoist Cloud Core shook his head helplessly. At the same time, he took a few more glances at Mu Yu. Today, Mu Yu had defeated Shi Dingtian, who was at the spirit-severing stage, with his out-of-body stage cultivation base. This was enough to prove his strength. If such a genius was driven out of the Pill Cauldron sect, then it would be a huge loss to the sect. Old Master, what is the supreme immortal leaderboard? Why don't you tell me first? Mu Yu felt like a country bumpkin. Everyone knew, but he didn't. Everyone was envious of him for becoming a supreme immortal, but he didn't understand where this envy came from. I'll explain it to you later. You're the branch master of the Green Bamboo Peak now. Can't you stop pretending? Don't disgrace the name of a branch master and make a fool of yourself, Mu said snappily. Many disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect were already secretly laughing at Mu Yu, a country bumpkin who had never seen the world. How could someone not know about the supreme immortal leaderboard? What a joke. Some of the disciples even revealed mocking smiles. After all, in their hearts, they didn't recognize Mu Yu as the branch master at all. There's nothing special about being a branch master in the first place. It's just 2 generals without an army. What's the point of being a branch master? Mu Yu shrugged indifferently. He didn't feel embarrassed at all. Besides, what's there to laugh at? What's there to laugh at? Is it because I'm ignorant? But I'm still a branch master. Are you laughing at me for not even hearing about the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard? But if you've never heard of the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard, why aren't you on it if you've heard of it? F***CK. This was blatant mockery. All the disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect couldn't wait to jump up and fight with Mu Yu. Mu Yu's words had dealt a critical blow to their hearts. However, they couldn't even say a word because Mu Yu was telling the truth. They really couldn't compare to Mu Yu. Mu Yu liked to see some people gnashing their teeth in hatred but unable to do anything to him. Taoist Yundan shook his head slightly. Mu Yu's words had already openly and covertly despised many of the talented disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect. As the sect master, he couldn't do anything because Mu Yu did have the right to be arrogant. Mu glanced at Mu Yu and held back his laughter. He knew that Mu Yu's words had already angered many disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect. He ignored Mu Yu and turned to ask Taoist Yundan, "Where's Mu Yu's identification? What's his ranking on the Supreme Immortal list?" Taoist Yundan waved his hand, and a complicated and mysterious array pattern suddenly appeared in his hand. The array pattern was only the size of a thumb, but it was filled with a sacred and majestic aura, as if it was a sacred object that couldn't be profaned. As soon as the array pattern appeared, it quickly rushed toward Mu Yu's right hand and firmly covered the back of Mu Yu's hand. "Hey, what's this?" Mu Yu shouted and wanted to tear the array pattern off, but the array pattern was like a dogskin plaster that was engraved into his skin. Then, a number slowly appeared. 82. Then, a strange and distant voice came from somewhere and resounded around Mu Yu. Mu Yu, the disciple of Jianing Chunfeng and Ku Mu Chong Qing, the 82nd Supreme Immortal. The old man nodded and said encouragingly, "The 82nd Supreme Immortal. It's not that high, but it's already very good. In the future, we'll have to." However, halfway through his words, his eyes suddenly widened. "Wait, whose disciple are you?" "Jian Ing Chun Feng, the true god of the third continent. Jian Ing Chun Feng." "What? Jian Ing Chun Feng's disciple? Did the third palace make a mistake? The true god of the third continent is his master? Jian Ing Chun Feng, this can't be true, right?" Everyone was shocked when they heard these words. No one would have thought that this monstrous Mu Yu was Jian Ing Chun Feng's disciple. There was no one in the three continents who did not know Jian Ing Chen Feng's name. He represented the supreme cultivation base of the human race. It was also Jianing Chan Feng who had wiped out the five spirit lords Yu Meng and saved the entire human race. Most importantly, Jianing Chan Feng wasn't one of the 9 supreme immortals chosen by the Third Palace. His origins had always been a mystery. After defeating the Yu Meng demon clan, Jianing Chan Feng disappeared without a trace. Only his 9 heavenly swords and supreme sword techniques were left to be talked about by the people of the world. However, Jianing Chan Feng actually had a disciple. Moreover, it was this Mu Yu who had caused so much chaos in the Danding sect. In this way, the disaster that Mu Yu had caused in the cultivation world could be written off. His background was frighteningly powerful. When Taoist Yun Dan and all the elders of the Danding sect heard Jian Ing Chen Feng, their faces froze. They only knew that Mu Yu was Deadwood's disciple, but they didn't expect him to have such an identity that could shock the entire cultivation world. If they were shocked when Mu Yu, who was in the out-of-body stage, defeated the Funshin stage, then the words Sword Shadow and Dust Wind were like 107th-tier explosive pills exploding in their ears at the same time, making them dizzy. After returning to the Green Bamboo Peak, Mu Yu worked as a laborer. He quickly rebuilt a wooden house with bamboo. The original wooden house had been blown up by Shi Dengtian. Building another one was not difficult for Mu Yu, who could control trees. Old man, where's the big earthworm? Why isn't the big earthworm by your side to protect you? Xiao Shui poked his head out and asked in confusion. Mu Yu then remembered that he had left the dragon vine with the dead tree. Could it be that the dragon vine had been killed by Shi Dengtian? After what happened to you, I knew that Shi Dengtian would definitely not let me go. The dragon vine would be coveted by many people in the Pill Cauldron sect, so I'll let it go to the valley to hide from the limelight, the dead tree said. Then he asked, are you ready to tell me the truth about the second heaven? Mu Yu had nothing to hide from the dead tree. He told the dead tree everything about the gate of hell and Xiao Shui. He also told the dead tree how he had escaped from the second heaven. After the dead tree heard everything, he remained silent for a long time. He knew how many hardships Mu Yu had gone through in the second heaven. He also knew that his journey was not very smooth. So you've already gotten the 9 Qi soul-cleansing flower and the netherworld herb, right? The dead tree asked. Mu Yu nodded and quickly asked, now that I have these 2 things, how can I save my master? The dead tree snorted and said with dissatisfaction, do you think it's that easy to save someone with these 2 things? The damage caused by the heaven and earth formation to a person is almost irreversible. Do you remember what I told you about the first Yang restoration pill? That's an 8th grade pill. Only an 8th grade alchemist can refine an 8th grade pill. Our Pill Cauldron sect doesn't have one. Mu Yu was dumbfounded. But you're not an alchemist. How can you refine pills? The dead tree ignored Mu Yu and continued. So we won't refine the first Yang restoration pill. I'm studying medicine. Do you think it's a joke? You should have said so earlier. You made me worry for nothing. Mu Yu heaved a sigh of relief. If it wasn't pills but the Tao of alchemy, then things would be much easier. He had already memorized the poison scripture, so he was quite knowledgeable about the Tao of alchemy. But medicine also needs cultivation as a foundation. You're not strong enough to extract the essence of this herb, the dead tree said. Hey, no matter what, I have to show my power today, okay? It's too hurtful. Mu Yu curled his lips and said, besides, I'm the ancestor of plants. What kind of herb essence doesn't listen to me? All right, I forgot about that. The dead tree nodded thoughtfully. Then it's easy. There's one more thing. What the hell is the supreme immortalist? Do I need to fight to the death with others? Mu Yu asked. Before you have the strength, to stay here and cultivate. When you have the strength, you can go to the supreme immortalist. I also need to remind you of one thing. Although Shi Dingtian won't kill you personally now, I'm sure that there are assassins in the Shadowy Man organization and Stargate who are on the supreme immortal list. He can definitely ask the Supreme Immortal from Stargate or the Shadowy Man organization to kill you, the Dead Tree said seriously, and then told Muyu the details of the Supreme Immortal list. I know about Stargate, but what the hell is the Shadowy Man organization? When you ran out of my valley, I was the one who hired the Shadowy Man organization to look for you. The Shadowy Man organization is more like an assassin organization. They will do anything as long as you pay them. Generally, there won't be any powerful assassins in search of people, but it's not necessarily the case when it comes to killing people. The most famous assassins in the Shadowy Man organization are the Solar Killer. They are named after the 24 solar terms, and their cultivation is very high. If one of them happens to be on the Supreme Immortal list, Shi Dangtian will definitely pay a lot of money to hire him. Shi Dangtian is a Tier 6 alchemist. He can definitely afford to hire him, the Dead Tree said. The more Muyu listened, the more he had a headache. There were already a lot of troubles, and now there was the Shadowy Man organization. Forget it. He could do whatever he wants. I need to solve the problem of the Netherworld grass first. Muyu knew that Shi Dangtian would definitely not give up, but he was also prepared to deal with it. He was not interested in the Supreme Immortal list. Whoever wanted to be first could go. The Netherworld grass was slightly blooming in his hand. One was black and one was white. It was filled with life chi and death chi, maintaining a strange state. Muyu looked at the Netherworld grass. He was familiar with this black and white feeling. When he was eroded by the power of the Yumon in his body would be covered with life chi and death chi, which was very similar to the state of the Netherworld grass. The Netherworld grass exists at the edge of life and death. It gathers life and death into its body. If the power of the Netherworld grass enters a person's body, once the life chi or death chi is out of balance, it will bring terrible consequences. It was also the first time that the Dead Tree had seen the Netherworld grass. He had only heard about it in ancient books, and his understanding of it was also from the records of predecessors. The reason why a person was alive was that their life chi and death chi were in a state of balance. The life chi would always suppress the death chi, and when the organs in the body began to die, the death chi would spread out, and at that time, the life of the person would gradually disappear from the body. So I have to make sure that the life chi and death chi of the Netherworld grass are in a state of balance. Muyu asked, No. He's trapped by the heaven and earth array. His life chi will gradually be taken away, and the death chi will gradually take over the main body. So you have to forcefully take away the life chi of the Netherworld grass and merge it with his Dantian. The powerful life chi of the Netherworld grass will instantly repair his Dantian, and at that time, he will be able to break free from the immortal confinement prison. The Dead Tree slowly explained. Muyu frowned. Ever since he received Muling's inheritance, he was very familiar with all the plants in the world, and he knew all the characteristics of the Netherworld grass. It was impossible for the Dead Tree to take away the life chi of the Netherworld grass. The Netherworld grass was a very special plant. Life and death depended on each other, but they also restrained each other. If the life chi was forcefully taken away, then the death chi would violently sweep out, covering an area of a few thousand miles. This area would become a land of death in the blink of an eye, and no one would be able to escape. And if the life chi was not restrained by the death chi, then this life chi would allow all living things to be filled with vigorous life chi. There is a limit to how much life chi a living thing could endure, and once it exceeded that limit, it would explode and die. Therefore, an area of a few thousand miles will become a land of life where no living thing could survive. If the life chi of the Netherworld grass was taken away, not to mention the fact that the area would become a land of death, even if there was a way to control this life chi, after it merged with Feng Haochen's Dantian, there would be a limit to how much life chi could be contained in his body. Wouldn't something happen to him then? Muyu voiced his doubts, but the Dead Tree said, Of course I know the characteristics of the Netherworld grass, so this is also the reason why we need to use the 9 Chi Soul cleansing flower. The 9 Chi Soul cleansing flower contains 9 types of heaven and earth spiritual chi. They are life chi, death chi, yin chi, yang chi, earth chi, vajra chi, gathering chi, and absorbing chi. The 9 chi soul cleansing flower contains the life chi and death chi that we need. However, the life chi and death chi that it contains are not very pure, so it cannot be used directly. It has more of a restraining effect, and its restraining effect is very shocking. It can replace the dead tree with a dead tree. Muyu suddenly understood. He also knew the effects of the 9 chi soul cleansing flower. He interrupted and said, "What you mean is that when I remove the life chi of the netherworld grass, I should use the life chi of the 9 chi soul cleansing flower to maintain the balance of the death chi of the netherworld grass, and not let it go out of control, right?" The dead tree said unhappily, "I didn't teach you for nothing." After a pause, the dead tree said, "Actually, it's not just that. Not only do you have to use the life chi of the 9 chi soul cleansing flower to restrain the death chi of the netherworld grass, you also have to use the death chi of the 9 chi soul cleansing flower to restrain the life chi of the netherworld grass. Moreover, the 9 chi soul cleansing flower's restraining effect has a time limit. It can't replace the netherworld grass, so within a year of being removed, the death chi and life chi of the netherworld grass will erupt again. Then can my master withstand the life chi?" Muyu asked. The dead tree glanced at Muyu and said, "After his dantian is repaired by the life chi, the remaining life chi will be absorbed by the immortal confinement prison. The power of the heaven and earth formation is beyond our imagination. At that time, he will have a way to escape from the immortal confinement prison. With his cultivation, nothing will happen to him. What you need to worry about is how to deal with the death chi of the netherworld grass." Chapter 301. How to deal with the death chi of the underworld grass was indeed a tricky problem. Muyu had originally suggested throwing the death chi into a deserted place where it wouldn't hurt anyone. However, Kumu warned him that the underworld grass was not a simple herb. It gathered the most primitive power of life and death. Without restrictions, this power would quickly spread and turn many places where humans lived into a land of death. Is this grass really that powerful? Muyu clicked his tongue. He only knew the characteristics of the underworld grass, but he didn't know what would happen if it went out of control. According to Kumu, the death chi would gradually spread. Perhaps in a few years, a few hundred years, or even a few thousand years, the entire 3 continents would become a land of death. He didn't expect such an inconspicuous grass in his hand to have such terrifying power. Muyu saved his master not only to let him live to save Miao Yuyin, but also for the millions of lives in the Moyun mountain range. If the death chi of the underworld grass was allowed to spread, then not only the Moyun mountain range, but even the people of the 3 continents wouldn't be able to survive. Feng Haochen would never allow this to happen, and Muyu didn't want to see it happen either. The underworld grass is a terrifying existence. It is said to be an anomaly between heaven and earth. It shouldn't exist in this world because the slightest carelessness can destroy the entire world. The underworld grass has always been a legend. In ancient times, people knew how to deal with the problems caused by the underworld grass. Unfortunately, many things have been lost over time, Kumu said slowly. Muyu felt that the grass in his hand was heavy. It could save his master, but could also destroy many people. The choice was entirely up to him. Is it that troublesome? Just let that broken piece of wood deal with the death chi. That broken piece of wood loves life and death chi the most, Xiao Shui said. The broken piece of wood he was talking about was Mu Yuming's sacred item. The Mu Ling Mu Yu's eyes lit up. He quickly asked, "Can Mu Ling do that?" Dead Tree frowned. He knew that Yumon's Mu Ling had saved Mu Yu, but he didn't know much about Yumon's relic. He wasn't sure if the Mu Ling could do what it did. Little Marshall swung his big tail and said, "He can do it. The small hole on Broken Wood's body can also be filled with death aura. Have you forgotten how Broken would absorb the souls from the gate of hell? His entire body is filled with the aura of death. When Mu Yu killed Gue Xianyue, he relied on Mu Ling. At that time, Mu Ling had absorbed many resentful souls to fill the holes in his body. What little Shuai said was right. This guy was usually silly, but when it came to critical moments, he could always say something unexpected. However, broken wood was originally something full of life. After absorbing the aura of death, it might have some changes. I don't know what the changes are, little Marshall said. Anyway, it's so ugly. Who cares what happens to it? Mu didn't care too much. Now that he had a way to deal with the aura of death and life, the next step was to quickly remove the aura of life and death from the netherworld grass. Then, he would go find his master and let him recover his cultivation. However, Dead Tree didn't let Mu deal with the netherworld grass immediately. He was still worried about the removal of the aura of death. If he didn't deal with it carefully, the entire Pill Cauldron sect might be destroyed. Although Dead Tree didn't have a sense of belonging to the Pill Cauldron sect, there were still many fellow disciples here that he cared about. He didn't want to take the risk here. Let's go back to the valley now, Dead Tree said. Mu didn't want to stay here either. The news that he was Jian Ying's disciple would spread soon. At that time, many people on the supreme immortal ranking might want to challenge the legendary disciple of a true god to see how powerful he was. The densely packed crowd of challengers was enough to annoy Mu Yu to death. Although sure, Ding Tian wouldn't do anything to Mu Yu, it didn't mean that he wouldn't do anything to Dead Tree. It wasn't safe to stay in the Pill Cauldron sect. Going to the valley wasn't a safe place either. They just wanted to take the dragon vine away. Just as they were about to leave, the old guard came out of nowhere and walked towards Mu Yu with an amiable face. Damn, old man, don't look at me like that. It makes me feel insecure, Mu Yu cursed. The old guard smiled embarrassedly and said sincerely, I say, little Mu Yu, we've been friends for many years. There's no need to be so distant. Now that the old guard knew that Mu Yu was Jian Ying's disciple, and that Mu Yu had the ability to cure the illness of the Pill Cauldron sect's alchemists, it would be strange if he didn't try to curry favor with him. Years of friendship, your sister. Ever since I came to the Pill Cauldron sect, I've been following your trap. You're so annoying. Now what trap do you want to set for me? Mu Yu rolled his eyes. The old guard didn't have any temper after being scolded. He quickly looked at Dead Tree and asked for help. Dead Tree, can't you say something good for me? Now, whether it was Mu Yu's identity as Jian Ying's disciple or as an extreme immortal on the extreme immortal ranking, he didn't dare to blatantly trick Mu Yu. In the Pill Cauldron sect, Mu Yu only listened to Dead Tree. Therefore, the old guard could only put down his pride and ask Dead Tree for help. What do you want to say? Mu Yu interrupted unhappily. Just thinking about how Dead Tree almost had an accident made him angry. If the Pill Cauldron sect didn't lock Dead Tree up, there wouldn't be so much trouble. Strangely, Dead Tree didn't scold the old guard. Although he and the old guard had always been at loggerheads, at this moment, he calmly said, Why are you looking for Mu Yu? The old guard quickly said, You also know that we alchemists always have so many hidden injuries that ordinary people can't understand. Now, the Pill Cauldron sect's reputation has been greatly reduced because of the Demon King. Hey, the Pill Cauldron sect's reputation has been greatly reduced. Are you blaming me for this? Mu Yu interrupted the old guard. No, I wouldn't dare. I mean, our Pill Cauldron sect hasn't had an 8-stage alchemist for many years. Even the 7-stage alchemists are almost extinct. The main reason is because of the wood dregs in their bodies. See if you can help. The old guard said with an apologetic smile. Why should I help you? What does it have to do with me whether the Pill Cauldron sect has a 7th or 8th-stage alchemist? Mu Yu had already expected the old guard's goal. It was none other than his ability to help the Pill Cauldron sect remove the wood dregs in their bodies. Right now, he didn't have any good feelings towards the Pill Cauldron sect. He wouldn't do something strenuous for nothing. The old guard's face was full of awkwardness. He originally wanted to say that he was now the new branch master of the Green Bamboo Peak and also a member of the Pill Cauldron sect. However, Mu Yu's identity as the disciple of Sword Shadow Chinfeng was even more intimidating. He didn't care about the identity of the branch master of the Pill Cauldron sect, so he didn't ask for a rebuff. Mu Yu, if you can help, then help. This old guy has been protecting me from being killed by Sure Dangtian in the pill confinement formation ever since I got into trouble. At least he has some conscience, Dead Tree said. Normally, the old guard would have already scolded Dead Tree for saying this. However, now that he needed help, he had no choice but to lower his head. He nodded slowly and said, "Yes, yes. If it wasn't for the sect leader gathering all of us that day, I wouldn't have left. I made a mistake in this matter. I shouldn't have let such a situation happen." Muyu knew that although the old guard had been cheating him, he didn't have a bad heart. Although he scolded Dead Tree all day long, he was the one who gave the returning to Origin pill to Dead Tree despite everyone's objections. To be honest, Muyu didn't have a bad impression of the old guard. Although he was very resentful towards Dead Tree for running away in the past, that was also because Dead Tree caused his daughter to have a one-sided love for him for so many years. No matter what, he was still a father. "All right, how many people do you need my help with? Let me tell you, my cultivation isn't high enough. There aren't many people who can help, and most 5. Muyu said. He thought that if the old guard dared to include Sure Dangtian, he would definitely turn around and leave. Not many, not many. 5 it is. I won't force you. Look, as the sect leader, Yundan definitely can't be left out. He imprisoned Dead Tree because of external pressure. I know you might not be willing, but he really didn't mean to harm Dead Tree. You already helped Yao Wuji last time. He still has some left in his body. Can you help him settle all of it? He's very talented, but he likes to do experiments. Most of the wood dregs in his body are in his body." The old guard paused and continued. "And Shui, my daughter, you should know her too. That child is deeply in love with Dead Tree. Although she might not have any friendship with you." "What friendship?" "Last time, Dead Tree went to peek at her bathing and was caught by others." Xiao Shui interrupted. "What? Dead Tree? You actually peeked at Shui bathing?" The old guard's face turned green. Dead Tree actually dared to peek at his daughter bathing? He looked at Dead Tree angrily. He wanted to scold Dead Tree for being one thing and another, but in the end he swallowed his words. Thinking about it, since Shui liked Dead Tree, it wasn't a loss for him to be peeked at. "Shut up. That was an accident." Dead Tree glared fiercely at Xiao Shui. "And that junior brother Yuanhua of mine. You should have met him. Last time, you two might have had a little conflict. He told me about it, but he actually wanted to protect you at that time." The old guard continued. "Back then, Taoist Yuan Hua even gave the pills to Muyu. Although he also wanted to stop Muyu from leaving, he thought about it. At least he gave Muyu a lot of precious pills back then. He could be considered a good person. The other one is Yao Wuji's master, Taoist Yuan Cheng. He's also my junior brother. What do you think of these 5 people?" The old guard said. "What else?" Exactly 5, exactly 5. These are the 5 people I've decided on after careful consideration. The 5 of them are indispensable to Danding's sect." The old guard said seriously. He thought that Muyu didn't count properly, so he quickly emphasized it again. Among the 5 people, there was no one from Sure Dangtian's faction. With the hatred between Muyu and Sure Dangtian, he naturally didn't dare to count Sure Dangtian in. "What about you?" Muyu was a little surprised. He thought that this old guy would at least be included in the 5 people. The old guard smiled. "The number of people is limited. I won't get involved. Plus, I'm old. They're the hope of Danding's sect. I don't need them." Muyu's mouth twitched. This old guy always cheated him. He didn't expect that when it came to the future of Danding's sect, he would be willing to sacrifice himself. He was quite a selfless guy. "Very well, if you want me to remove the wood dregs from your body, prepare 27th tier pills, 56th tier pills, and 105th tier pills. That's the price for everyone. No bargaining," Muyu leisurely said. The old guard's eyes twitched. He was prepared to be extorted by Muyu, but he didn't expect this guy to be so greedy. Level 6 pills and level 5 pills weren't difficult for them, but level 7 pills might not be. Although they were all level 7 alchemists, it didn't mean that they could refine all level 7 pills. 20 level 7 pills were almost all the wealth of a level 7 alchemist. But thinking that they could refine pills if they ran out of pills, if they couldn't remove the wood dregs from their body, their future would be even worse. So the old guard could only laugh and didn't dare bargain. Kumu wanted to laugh, but he still held back. Muyu was like a robber, robbing the wealth of a level 7 alchemist of Danding's sect. The most helpless thing was that Zhou Yu was willing to beat Huanggai. What are you waiting for? Go and call them, Muyu said. Chapter 302. Daoist Yun Dan, Yao Wuji, and Lung Bingxue slowly walked out of the bamboo forest. Everyone had a strange expression on their faces. Clearly, they had been waiting here for a long time. When they heard Muyu's price, they all looked at Muyu awkwardly. Kai Lai also came with the 5 of them. Yao Wuji knew that Kai Lai had a good relationship with Muyu, so he brought him along. He hoped that through Kai Lai, Muyu would be easier to talk to. Muyu, your move is really ruthless. Kai Lai smiled as he ran over and patted Muyu's shoulder. All right, I forgot about you, kid. It's fine, buy 5 get 1 free. I'll help you get rid of the wood dregs for free. Muyu was also very happy to see Kai Lai and gave him a hug. There weren't many people in the Pill Cauldron sect that could leave a good impression on him, but Kai Lai was definitely one of them. Yao Wuji revealed a relieved smile. He knew that bringing Kai Lai along was the right choice. Daoist Yin Dan was a little regretful. This was because none of his disciples were close to Muyu. The most talented disciple, Lin Tianyu, didn't have any friendship with Muyu. Biwen Xian and Muyu had only met once. Muyu's price was simply too high. It was simply asking for too much. However, everyone knew that if Muyu could really help them get rid of the wood dregs in their bodies, then no amount of money would be too much for these 7th-tier pill refiners. After all, getting rid of the wood dregs meant that the pill refiner's body would be reborn. Yao Wuji only needed Muyu's help to get rid of some wood dregs to break through to the severed soul stage. One could see how important this matter was to all the pill refiners. Little friend Muyu, we meet again, Daoist Yuan Hua casually greeted. There was a green bead on his walking stick. It was this bead that revealed Muyu's identity. However, he didn't expose it in front of others. Muyu nodded and returned the greeting. He remembered this person when he was confronting the demon race at 8 Grass Village, and his impression of him wasn't bad. Thinking about it, in the entire cultivation world, any one of these 5 people would be respected by tens of thousands of people. Each of them would be the target of flattery in the cultivation world. However, at this moment, he was robbed by Muyu to the point that he had nothing to say. He didn't even dare to show the slightest complaint. If other people knew about this, they would definitely be shocked. Come, one by one, go pay the money to the old man. Muyu would not continue to be polite with them. He would do whatever the price was. Even the head of the Danding school did not have any possibility of accommodating him. Junior brother Kumu, you've accepted a good disciple. Daoist Yin Dan sighed helplessly. With a wave of his hand, he sent a pile of pills to Kumu. He was Jian Ying and Chun Feng's disciple. He was also a freak who could fuse incomplete pills. He could also cure chronic diseases for alchemists. This kind of person was really too heaven-defying. The most unexpected thing was that such a genius disciple was actually willing to take Kumu as his master. No matter how one looked at it, Kumu was far inferior to Jian Ying and Chun Feng. However, Kumu always seemed to be able to control Muyu and make him obedient. How could they know that Kumu and Chun Feng were rivals in love? With Kumu's reclusive personality, he wouldn't tell anyone anything. Daoist Yin Dan simply didn't understand how Muyu got involved with Kumu. Kumu didn't hold back and didn't act carelessly at all. He counted and said, Senior brother, there are 5 more 7th grade pills and 10 more 6th grade pills. Daoist Yin Dan shook his head and said generously, Take it as my apology to you. You also know that I have my reasons for treating you like that. I hope you don't blame me. Daoist Yin Dan was really generous. What he did was actually a kind of investment. With Muyu's current status and ability, his future would definitely be limitless. He might even become one of the top 9 extreme immortals. If they could befriend him now, the Pill Cauldron sect would have an even stronger backer in the future. Daoist Yuan Hua and Daoist Yuan Cheng weren't stingy. They more or less handed over more 6th grade pills. Nephew Muyu, I'm only a 6th grade alchemist. Can I owe you the 7th grade pills? I can give you all the 6th grade pills. Yao Wuji probed. You have to ask Kumu. Whatever he says is the truth. He makes all the decisions. Muyu purposely left this matter to Kumu so that the Pill Cauldron sect wouldn't make things difficult for Kumu, who was only in the Jindan period. The next time they looked for trouble with Kumu, they would also be careful. However, Kumu still had a disciple who wasn't to be trifled with. They would have to consider whether it was worth it to provoke Kumu's disciple. Since your Kai Lai's master and Kai Lai helped Muyu, then you don't have to hand over the pills. Kumu glanced at Lung Bingxue and continued, Bingxue doesn't need it either. Yao Wuji and Lung Bingxue were both 6th grade alchemists. They didn't have the ability to refine 7th grade pills. Actually, Lung Bingxue's father was a 7th grade alchemist. However, since Kumu had spoken, Muyu naturally didn't have any objections. Yao Wuji was Kai Lai's master, and Lung Bingxue and Kumu had an unclear relationship. Why would he care about these things? Thank you, senior brother Kumu. Yao Wuji hurriedly said. Kumu was second only to Daoist Yundan in terms of seniority. Yao Wuji was also Kumu's junior brother. Yao Wuji looked at his disciple with satisfaction. Fortunately, Kai Lai had met Muyu in Lanxi City, and the two of them had become good friends. Thinking back, Kai Lai had met Muyu because he had randomly thrown an insignificant pill scripture everywhere. It was also thanks to this lazy disciple of his that Kai Lai had obtained such a good opportunity. Lung Bingxue walked in front of Kumu and pushed a pile of pills in front of Muyu. She said softly, Thank you. Kumu pursed his lips and put the pills into his sleeves without even touching them. He mumbled a response and looked at Lung Bingxue's eyes. He didn't run away anymore. His heart was struggling, and he couldn't make up his mind. After a long time, he seemed to have made up his mind and said, I should be the one thanking you. Thank you for always protecting me. When Muyu's matter is settled, if you're still willing to wait for me, I will follow you. I will follow you. After running away for a lifetime, it was time to take a break. Lung Bingxue's body stiffened. She had waited for this sentence for half her life, and it had finally come out of this blockhead's mouth. Her eyes sparkled, and she suddenly stood on her tiptoes. Ignoring the gazes of others, she kissed the man she loved and hated. At that moment, their lips were warm and soft. Tom seemed to have stopped. He had lived for others his whole life, so why not live for himself for once? Kumu's heart warmed. Perhaps Miao Yiyin still had a place in his heart, but this year of being trapped in the pill imprisoning array made him understand that cherishing the people in front of him was the best choice. He had once loved the girl deeply and did everything he could to save her. Even though her heart didn't belong to him, he had delayed another girl because of this. He had already thought it through. There were some things that he would do regardless of his own safety, just so he wouldn't have any regrets. But to make up for his regrets, he couldn't sacrifice the people he loved. Muyu, why do you think they're biting each other's lips? Xiao Shuai asked in confusion, but Muyu took out a drumstick and stuffed it in Xiao Shuai's mouth. There is no need to explain too much to an unromantic guy. Muyu looked at Kumu, this idiot, in a happy mood. Now, Kumu had the appearance of a middle-aged man, and Lung Bingxue had maintained her youthful appearance. The two of them were a good match. Muyu thought that if Feng Haochen and Miao Yiyin knew about this, they would definitely be happy for Kumu. He thought of Tian Ran and Xiao Shui inside in his heart. He liked Tian Ran, and Tian Ran also liked him. But because of a joke, he made Xiao Shui lose her sense of propriety. In the future, he might become a heartless man. He only hoped that Xiao Shui could think through this. The old man looked at the bitter lovers with a gratified expression. His daughter had stayed alone for a lifetime and finally made Kumu change his mind. He had watched Kumu and Lung Bingxue grow up, so he knew the two of them very well. Seeing the two of them together, the old man could finally put down the stone in his heart. The old man sat on the steps of the bamboo house and looked at all of this. He nodded slightly, as if he no longer had any regrets in life. At this moment, a hand was placed on his shoulder. He looked up and saw Muyu looking at him with a smile that was not a smile. His heart skipped a beat. He had seen this smile once before. Back in the alchemy pavilion, Muyu had extorted him with this smile. The old man was already prepared to be extorted again. But for the 5 people from the alchemy sect, even if his property was stolen by Muyu, he had nothing to say. The old man helplessly asked, "My little ancestor, you've already extorted so many people. What else do you want?" But soon, he opened his eyes wide because the wood dregs that had accumulated in his meridians suddenly began to surge along his meridians like a tide. The wood dregs that had troubled him for decades seemed to have been summoned by something and swept towards his arm. The wood dregs that had accumulated for a lifetime could not be removed no matter how many methods were used. But under the control of Muyu, they all automatically gathered together. The old man was shocked and trembled. This was not the same level as when Muyu helped him to remove the wood dregs. In the past, Muyu had always removed them step by step. But now, Muyu seemed to want to remove all the wood dregs in his body in one go. "You removed them for me. Then what about them? Didn't we agree on 5 people?" The old man stammered. His entire arm had turned green, which made him look extremely strange. "Stop talking nonsense. Break your skin, and then go to Kumu to pay the money." Muyu scolded. He was not a heartless person. The old man was willing to sacrifice himself for others, and also protected Muyu in all aspects. How could Muyu not help him? The old man's face was filled with ecstasy. He quickly cut open his arm. The wood dregs poured out from the wound and were controlled by Muyu in his hand, forming 2 fist-sized wood dregs. "So much wood dregs, so tiring. It's a miracle that I didn't kill you." Muyu muttered and casually threw away the wood dregs. Taoist Yundan and the others at the side opened their eyes wide. Muyu actually removed all the wood dregs from the old man's body in one go. The wood dregs that had troubled all alchemists for their entire lives was actually so easily removed by Muyu. Could this be a dream? Thank you. I really thank you. The old man felt as if his body had been reborn. His stiff body suddenly became incomparably flexible. He wanted to look up to the sky and howl, but he still held it in. Looking at Muyu, for a moment, he became somewhat emotional. He even stuttered when he spoke. In fact, it was said that alchemists were weak in fighting in the same realm. The main reason was that there were a lot of wood dregs in their bodies. These wood dregs more or less affected their reaction time. It was inevitable that they would be at a disadvantage when fighting with cultivators of the same realm. "Stop talking nonsense. Go and pay the money." Muyu kicked the old man. The old man's seniority was very high. Taoist Yundan did not dare to neglect him. He was the eldest senior brother of the previous generation. Although he had a carefree personality, no one dared to be disrespectful to him. However, when Muyu kicked him like that, the other party actually didn't care. If other disciples of Danding's sect saw this, their eyeballs would definitely pop out. This Muyu really dared to do this. "My little Muyu, you see, Shui Air and Dead Tree are together. Dead Tree is your master, which is equivalent to your father. I am equivalent to Dead Tree's father, so I can be considered as your grandfather. Are you qualified to be Jian Ing Chunfeng's father?" Muyu coldly replied. He knew that this old man wanted to play the sentimental card. He wanted to give a discount as a relative and see if he could get a discount. Others might be polite, but Muyu would definitely not be polite to this old man. Helping him was one thing, but extorting him was another. The old man's mouth was wide open. He seemed to be frightened by Muyu's words. He had forgotten that Muyu had another master. That master was a true god of the 3rd continent. How could he dare to have such thoughts? He quickly laughed and said, I wouldn't dare. Pretend I didn't say anything. Pretend I didn't say anything. Go and pay. If there's one less pill, I'll put the wood dregs back into your body." Muyu snorted domineeringly. He swept his gaze over the remaining people who were shocked and said indifferently, "Next." Only then did the others come to their senses. Taoist Yundan smiled bitterly. It was true that comparisons were odious. Who would have thought that the young man who had turned the cultivation world into a mess would have such means? Seeing how he cleaned up a person's wood dregs without blushing or skipping a beat, It was really scary. Taoist Yundan quickly walked over. Muyu was a bit more polite to him. Then, he dealt with the wood dregs in Taoist Yundan's body as well. Then, he dealt with the remaining wood dregs. It was even easier for Kai Lai. Kai Lai was still young and didn't have any wood dregs in his body. The remaining wood dregs were all dealt with by Muyu. The entire process didn't take much time. To him, these wood dregs were a piece of cake. As for what they would suspect, Muyu couldn't be bothered. He had a true god of the third continent as his master. What was wrong with doing these things? If they wanted to suspect something, then they should suspect Jian Ying and Chun Feng. Junior brother sure really shouldn't have provoked this brat. Taoist Yundan sighed in his heart. Sure, Deng Tian's talent in alchemy was extremely high. If he could get rid of the wood dregs in his body, he would definitely become a 7th-rank alchemist. Unfortunately, the hatred between him and the dead tree would never be resolved in his lifetime. Next time, if you have any questions after sales, you can come and find me. I'm very honest in my business. The second time, half price. Muyu revealed an innocent smile. Chapter 303. Muyu left the Pill Cauldron sect under everyone's strange gazes. Without the wood dregs in his body, everyone felt as if they had been reborn. No one dared to stop them. As for the pills, Muyu left a lot for Kumu. There were 7 or 8 Bone Emperor pills and 5 for himself. Currently, Kumu needed these pills more than him to protect himself, so he gave most of them to Kumu. After spending half a day to return to the valley, he found the dragon vine and set off with it. Big earthworm, I thought you were being refined into medicine, Xiao Shui said with a grunt. The dragon vine growled and coiled around Kumu's wrist. Little rat, we haven't seen each other for so long. Are you asking for a scolding? Muyu laughed involuntarily. These two weirdos kept scolding each other when they were together. He was helpless. His next goal was very clear. He would first go to the 50-mile garden in the south to meet up with Luo Shang and see if Luo Shang had found his master. Then, he would deal with the matter of the netherworld grass. The 50-mile garden in the south was not unfamiliar to Kumu, but it was very far away. Even the out-of-body stage Mu, you needed 5 to 6 days to reach there. However, Deadwood didn't want to travel continuously, so after 3 days of traveling, Deadwood found a city as a temporary stop. This city was called Sword Shadow City. It was said that 100 years ago, after Jian Ying Chun Feng defeated the 5 spirit lords Yumeng, he came back to live in this city. In order to commemorate Jian Ying Chun Feng's contribution, the people of the city named it Sword Shadow. So, Muyu also wanted to come here to take a look. Scram, I won't go to that damn city, even if you beat me to death. I'm warning you, if you dare to bring me to that city, I will definitely fall out with you. Kumu was very unhappy. He had always hated and opposed coming to this city. He cursed Muyu with all kinds of ruthless words and said that he would not go even if he was beaten to death. Unfortunately, Muyu laughed and said, I won't go even if you beat me to death. If you can't beat me to death, then I'll go. Then, he brought Kumu here. Now, Kumu wasn't Muyu's opponent at all. He was extremely angry and threw a tantrum like a child. After entering the city, she didn't want to say a word to Muyu. She felt humiliated. Almost every city in the 3 continents had a statue of Jian Ying Chun Feng standing on top of the city gates, elegantly and handsomely guarding the entire city. The statue was the eye of the formation that protected the city. There were people guarding it at all times to prevent Yumon from invading. Shadow Sword City was a bustling city with countless self-cultivators gathered here. After Muyu arrived, he was surprised to discover that the entire cultivation world was not only talking about the young heroes on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard, but also about him, the disciple of Jian Ying Chun Feng. Have you heard? Jian Ying Chun Feng's disciple. Is that Muyu? Muyu? You mean the human traitor Muyu? Don't talk nonsense. He's now the hero of the human race. The Supreme Immortal Leaderboard says that he's Jian Ying Chun Feng's disciple. The news from the 3 palaces is the most accurate. Now, Everyone thinks that Mu Yu released the Demon King under Jian Ying Chun Feng's instructions. How could the true God allow the Demon King to be born? What do you know? The true God has disappeared for 100 years. He must have his reasons for doing things. More than 10 Supreme Immortals on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard are from the younger generation of the demon race. This means that the three palaces have acknowledged the existence of the demon race. In the inn, Mu Yu and Ku Mu were eating while the self-cultivators around the table were discussing. Mu Yu was stunned. He didn't expect that because of his Supreme Immortal Leaderboard, the fact that he was Jian Ying Chun Feng's disciple was known to the outside world. Then, the matter of him helping the Demon King to be born was written off. "Old man, look, everyone's talking about me," Mu Yu said with a grin. Ku Mu glared at Mu Yu. Then, he finally said the first thing he said after entering the city. "Hide the mark on your hand. Now, many people have only heard of your name. They've never seen you in person. How can you be so smug? If people find out that you're here, do you believe that many Supreme Immortals will immediately come looking for you?" Mu Yu rolled his eyes. "Please, I'm only ranked 82. There are 81 people who are more powerful than me. Why are you looking for me instead of those people? Because you're that bastard's disciple. People are afraid of fame, and pigs are afraid of being fat. Many people want to kill you to prove that they're more powerful than Jian Ying Chun Feng's disciple." Ku Mu scolded without holding back. "Old master, did you eat an explosive pill?" Little Shuai asked from the side. "He hates Jianing Chun Feng, just like how I hate you," Long Tong said. "You make it sound like I like you a lot." Xiao Shuai snorted. The two weirdos began to quarrel again. Mu Yu was rendered speechless by Ku Mu's scolding. He was wondering if he should give Ku Mu some herbs to reduce his internal heat, so that he wouldn't always speak as if he had an explosive pill in his mouth and speak with fire. A thin, middle-aged man next to them spoke again. "Do you know one more thing? There's news from the Danding sect that Mu Yu is not only Jian Ying Chun Feng's disciple, but also the Poison King, Ku Mu Chongqing's disciple. Poison King Ku Mu Chongqing was arrested by the Danding sect after Mu Yu's accident. That day, Mu Yu ran back to save the Poison King and defeated an elder of the Danding sect who was at the divinity stage with his out-of-body stage cultivation. What? Are you kidding? It's absolutely true. My senior brother's old friend's third brother-in-law's neighbor's old man and a disciple of the Danding sect's elder brother's friend's uncle are brothers. The news is reliable," the thin man said solemnly. It was already quite good that the news was still accurate after so many layers of connections. "I also heard about this, but I think that Mu Yu defeated a divinity stage cultivator because of the Poison King's secret help. You have to know that Ku Mu Chongqing is an extremely terrifying person. His cultivation is said to be at the heaven combining stage. Ku Mu Chongqing was once famous in the cultivation world. Mu Yu must have learned all of his skills." Another blue-clothed cultivator agreed. Mu Yu patted Ku Mu's shoulder and said, "Old man, look, they're praising you too." Ku Mu snorted, but his expression eased and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. It was obvious that he enjoyed being praised like this. "If you ask me, I think Mu Yu used Jian Ying Chun Feng Sky Sword 9 Attraction Sword Technique to gain an advantage. In front of Jian Ying Chun Feng, that stuttering Ku Mu Chongqing is nothing. He's a true god, and he's just a low-level cultivator who only knows how to use poison. A true god can kill Ku Mu Chongqing with a single breath," the thin middle-aged man said disdainfully. Ku Mu's face immediately sank. A wave of anger was faintly burning in him. He snorted heavily, and his tone was full of disdain. Mu Yu's smile also froze. He really wanted to beat up this thin, middle-aged man. Ku Mu had been in a good mood for a long time, but this guy just had to rub salt in his wound and belittle Ku Mu. "What are you snorting for? Don't tell me you don't agree with my words?" The thin, middle-aged man turned his head in dissatisfaction. He was a nascent soul stage cultivator. When he saw that Ku Mu, a Jindan stage cultivator, actually dared to speak like this after he finished speaking, he was immediately unhappy. "Nonsense, what's there to agree with?" Ku Mu coldly replied. "Do you want to die?" The thin, middle-aged man fiercely slammed the table. He was looked down upon by a Jindan stage cultivator. How could he put his face as a nascent soul stage cultivator? Everyone present did not know Ku Mu Chongqing. Everyone in the cultivation world had the impression that the Poison King, Ku Mu Chongqing, was a green-haired old man with a strange personality and stuttering. However, the man in front of them who looked to be in his 40s was obviously very normal. How could they associate him with Ku Mu Chongqing? The thin, middle-aged man's nascent soul stage aura surged towards Ku Mu, wanting to teach this reckless golden core stage man a lesson. However, when his aura came into contact with Ku Mu, it dissipated like snow melting away. Ku Mu was not affected at all. What's going on? The thin, middle-aged man looked around in surprise. He only saw the young man across from Ku Mu, who was reaching out his chopsticks to pick up food from time to time. There was also a little mouse gnawing on a chicken leg on the table. He completely did not associate that young man with Mu Yu, who was in the out-of-body stage. Mu Yu's aura did not seem like an out-of-body stage expert either. I don't believe it. The thin, middle-aged man slapped Ku Mu. He did not use his full strength, but it was not something a cultivator in the Jindan stage could block. However, a pair of chopsticks quickly caught the thin, middle-aged man's hand. "If you dare to hit me, you will have to leave your hand behind," Mu Yu said lightly. He held the chopsticks in one hand and took a sip from the wine glass in the other. He looked happy and at ease. His moves were elegant and free, just like an elegant young master. He had the demeanor of a master. Many people who came to join the fun looked at Mu Yu in surprise. He was so young and had such skills. Judging from the strength of his moves, he was obviously not in the nascent soul stage. He was at least in the out-of-body stage. However, it was rare to see someone in the out-of-body stage at such a young age. "Get lost." Ku Mu Chongqing glanced at the thin, middle-aged man briefly. His eyes were like lightning, making the thin, middle-aged man's heart tremble inexplicably. Even if Ku Mu had lost his cultivation now, he was still a master in the combination stage. How could this guy in the nascent soul stage look down on him? "My old man told you to get lost. Did you hear him?" Mu Yu tightened her grip on the chopsticks in her hand, while her other hand leisurely poured herself a glass of wine. Cold sweat broke out on the thin, middle-aged man's forehead. He never thought that this man in the Jindan stage would be protected by a young man with such a high cultivation. Listening to the young man's tone, it seemed that he was very respectful to the man in the Jindan stage. How could this be? How could an out-of-body stage young man listen to a man in the Jindan stage? His first thought was that this man in the Jindan stage was the young man's servant. "I told you not to come to this foul place. Why did you have to make trouble?" Ku Mu angrily snatched the wine glass in Mu Yu's hand and drank it in one gulp. Then he stood up and glared at Mu Yu. "Why aren't you leaving?" The crowd was in an uproar. A man in the Jindan stage dared to scold a young man in the out-of-body stage. How noble was this man's identity? Mu Yu muttered, "Can't you let me pretend to be cool for 3 seconds? Everyone says that you can't be cool for more than 3 seconds. Only I can keep being cool forever." Xiao Shuai rubbed his round belly and burped. Mu Yu grabbed Xiao Shuai's tail and helplessly followed Ku Mu. He shook his head and said, "I'll definitely give him some gunpowder later. He won't even let me pretend to be cool. This is too much." However, at this moment, a sword suddenly appeared in front of Ku Mu and a cold voice slowly filled the entire inn. "You are the 82nd person on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. I need your name. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.